Close the doors of your mind. Close the gates of your mind. Close the gates of your palace, your ba'ith, your ahal, your ohel, your tent, your mishkan, your mikdash, your haikal. And bring your mind to center. Bring your thoughts to center. Bring your consciousness to center. Bring your understanding to center. For today is a day of freedom. Today is a day that Yahuwah has given to us as another shabath, that we may cease from our labors in our selfish self, in our own selfish mind, and selfish ambitions, and selfish goals, and selfish paths, and selfish understanding, and bring us to the understanding of what it means to share. Even as Yahuwah says, even as Yahuwah shared his son with us, and shared his bread, his lakam with us, with his yad and his kaf. And guess what? He commands us to do the very same thing with his yad and his kaf. But today is a day of freedom. For today is the day that Yahuwah has given to us to walk in his ways, to walk in his thoughts, and to walk in his mind. For today we acknowledge the one who made all of the heart of the earth, all of the nahar of the earth, all the shimmering light that you see on top of the rivers and streams on the whole earth. The one who allows all beings and all creatures to give halal to him in the morning in Bakar when the sun is getting ready to come out of the portal. Yahuwah Elohim. The one who allows the mountains to have the jaggeds on them that men may fall on it and perish. The one who sends his malaki to raise them back to life when they do things outside and tempt him. Yahuwah Elohim. So as we move forward in the light of life. We move forward in the Ruach Qahalath. We move forward in Yahuwah Elohim in his love. For his love, his ahaba, is what allows us to still be here on earth. For had he not sent his son, his ben, Yahushua Mashiach, the life of the house, we would be all men and women and children most miserable. He said a miserable life knowing that we have to go to judgment without anyone to fight in favor for us or have any type of understanding, bina hamada'ah, to clear us from our own judgment. So this is the book of Hosea, Actually, go to the book of Amos, the book of Amos, chapter 8. The book of Amos, Amos, chapter 8 and verse 10. Actually, verse 8 and 9. Amos, 8 and 9. And on that day, declares Yahuwah Elohim, I will make the sun go down at noon. And people can't even see in Matthew 27, going right into it, that even when he darkened it from the 6th to the 9th hour, they still don't believe in Yahushua Mashiach. They be like, that ain't talking about him. That ain't talking about anything he did. Yes, it did. But that's why it went down. I will make the sun go down at noon from the 6th to the 9th hour. Why? There's a 6th to the 9th hour. There's a 6th month and there's a 9th month. But all these all correlate to what? Understanding. And amazingly, when you go to 360, what do you find in there? You find a 3. That's when he was crucified. You'll find a 6, 360. What? You find a 6, the sun went out at noon. And then when you add up 6 and 3, what do you get? 9. You get it all in one little 360-degree revolution. And guess what it says? And on that day, declares Yahuwah, I will make the sun go down at noon and darken the earth in a broad daylight. He said, I'm going to do it right there in the middle of daylight. He said, I'm going to make it midnight. Because you know a day starts at night. So I'm going to make it right there and make it at nighttime right there. So he said, I'm going to make it equal day, equal night, right in the nighttime, right before you even know when the sun rises, what day it is. He said, I already did it. He said, I already told you. I already told you after the 3rd day, when the sun goes down to the 3rd day, I already told you this the 4th day start at nighttime. I already told you that. And I already gave you the Shamash Kukab in the yard to actually tell you when the actual time is. I already told you that. And guess what? And I will turn your feast into morning. You know why he's going to turn your feast in the morning? Because your time is going to be off. He said, I'm going to turn your feast into morning, your car, and all your songs into lamentation. Because he's like, you know what happened to you. You already know what happened to you. And I will bring sackcloth on every waist and baldness on every head. And you'd be like, man, why are we going bald? You know how we can't, you know how you say, why Yashara, why we can't grow any hair? You know why? That's the reason why. That's why you be losing hair, be stressed out, be all messed up. You be like, man, why I can't? Because you all off. Everybody off. And that's why you can't grow any hair. That's why you gotta wear that. That's why you gotta wear your turban on your head, because you don't want nobody to see your bald head. You gotta put your hat on your head. That's why you gotta do it. Because you think about it. why you think Yahuwah doing making baldness come upon everybody here? He's like, man, why am I gonna bald? Why I gotta get hair implants? It's not that difficult. He said, if you keep all the commandments, I won't do anything to you. But being that you don't, it's not that difficult. That's why he can't command everybody to go back 364 days cycle and make sure you calculate this thing right. Why? Because if we don't, we ain't never gonna get it. He said, your hair ain't gonna grow back though. That's another thing that people don't want to talk about. But here we go. And I will make it like mourning for their only son. He said, I will make you mourn like for your only son. You ever had one son that ended up perishing and you ain't got no other children, no other son to carry on the lineage? Think about it. And the end of it like a bitter day. Now you see why Yahuwah Kinah. Ruach Kinah. You know, when Yahuwah get Kinah, he's jealous because Yahuwah named jealous. He's bitter. He make you take that bitter cup. That's why Yahushua had to take that bitter cup at the end. In Yuchanan chapter 19, he had to say what? It is finished. And he took that bitter cup and he drunk it. Why? Because he had to do some things. In order to do that bitter cup, he had to agree with Yahuwah. He had to agree with him. And guess what? Behold, the days are coming, declares Yahuwah, that I will send a famine in the land. So what do you mean famine? Not a famine of bread, lakam, nor a thirst for water. He's like, it ain't gonna be for natural food. You know how the things that people be desiring so much every single day? But of hearing the words of Yahuwah. He said about hearing the words of Yahuwah. That's what I'm gonna send a famine for. Because that famine, how you gonna send a famine in the land from hearing the words of Yahuwah? How you gonna do that? Because you look at all that and you say, how you gonna do that? Right? This is the book of Numbers. This is Numbers chapter 5. Going back to Numbers chapter 5 real quick, 19. Numbers chapter 5 and verse 19. Numbers chapter 5 and verse 19. And it says, then the priest shall make her take an oath, saying, if no man has lain with you, and if you have not turned aside to uncleanness, while you are under your husband's authority, be free from the water of bitterness that brings the curse. Now you see why he said it's going to be bay of bitterness. You know what happens when you get your internal organs messed up in your inside? You get lamentations, crying, weeping, sackcloth and ashes, and you go bald-headed. You start pulling out your hair. Why? But if you have gone astray, though you are under your husband's authority, and if you have defiled yourself, and some man other than your husband has lain with you, then let the Kohan make the woman take the oath of the curse, and say to the woman, Yahuwah make a curse and an oath among your people, when Yahuwah makes your thigh fall away and your body swell. And guess what she had to do? May this water that brings the curse pass into your bowels and make your wound swell from your thigh, that your thigh fall away, and the woman shall say, Amen, Amen. She has to agree with him. If you don't agree, what happens? If you don't agree, then what happens? You don't drink it, right? He's like, man, I ain't drinking that thing. I ain't drinking this stuff. You know what happens when you don't drink it? Right, you know the sad part about it? This is the whole thing. This is the book, Matthew 27:32. Even if you don't drink it, it don't matter if you don't drink it or not. It doesn't matter. Matthew 27:32. And they went out, and they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name. They compelled this man to carry his cross, his totality. Shoot, you carry the 22nd letter of the alphabet, and see how heavy that is. Because y'all know people say, I'm strong, I can carry all the way to the 20. I said, we ain't even get that far yet. I can carry it all the way to the 22nd letter of the alphabet. You can carry the totality, sign, signature, exit, four corners. You can do that. You can carry that, huh? Because that's what's going to happen to you when you put that bullseye on yourself. So you can carry that. Because everybody said they can carry it. I assure you, even Yahushua himself needed somebody to help him carry that thing. He like, man, I need somebody to help me carry that thing. Because I ain't strong enough. You know what I say? Get strength. I'm getting strong. Shaul said, I'd rather kabod in my weaknesses, not in my strengths. Anybody can present all their strengths to you, but what's your weaknesses? That's the part where you need to understand. Cause you can be strong all you want. Man can be strong, woman can be strong. But where your weakness is at, that's the part where you need to be caboding in. That's what you need to be, not them strengths you got. And when they came to the place called Golgotha, which is the place of skulls, they offered him wine to drink, mixed with gall. He gave me that bitter wine. You know how it is. You ain't got to drink it. And guess what he did? And when he tasted it, he would not drink it. He's like, man, I don't agree with that. Oh no, I'm not drinking that cup. You know that cup, that bitter cup that woman say, and the woman shall say, Amen, Amen. But he was like, no, I'm not drinking that thing. He's like, no, I don't agree with y'all, Kohanim. And he put that bitter cup, he's like, I ain't drinking that. But guess this is the whole point of it. I told you ain't got to drink it. Even Yahushua fulfill that too. You ain't got to eat his flesh and drink his blood. You know what happens? You ain't got to drink this cup because you know why? Because he even did not drink it. For a time. And when they had crucified him, they divided his garments among them and casting lots. And they sat down and kept watch over him there. And over his head they put a charge against him, which read, this is Yahushua, Mamaka Yahudim. Skipping over, you say, why is this important? Because if you don't understand this, then how you got eternal life abiding in you? Because you got to agree with him. Matthew 27:45. Matthew 27:45. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land to the 9th hour. That's why he said I'm going to darken it at noontime. Matter of fact, I crucified him at the 3rd hour. Then I darkened it at the 6th hour. That's 3/6. That's 360 right there. But then how do you get to 9? Oh. And there was darkness over the land to the 9th hour. That's why he did it. Because you add 360 to 9. And guess what? And about the 9th hour, Yahushua cried out with a loud voice, saying, Aliyah, Aliyah, lama sabachthani, ma Elohim, ma Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? Ma Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? Amazingly, what did he do? He just agreed. Amen, amen. Then the woman shall say, Amen, amen, right? Why had my Elohim, amen, amen. Why hast thou forsaken me? He's like, man, I'm finna go through this thing. I already know these people are guilty, and I gotta drink this thing now. Oh, man. He already knew. He like, I gotta drink this thing. And some of the bystanders hearing it said, this man is calling for all Yahoo. See? When you confused, you real confused. They knew all the Abri Lashon. They knew Yahuwah's name. They knew all the cars, muaz, all the animal offerings. They knew every single thing about the Torah. They had all the books. But guess what they didn't do? They couldn't even see this man. They couldn't see Yahushua Mashiach. Even with all of that. They had it from a Hanukkah all the way through. Even the books that the Kohanim kept from the people so they wouldn't be free from their stupidity, right? And their manipulation. Guess what? Still. And one of them at once ran and took a sponge and filled it with sour wine. They put it with sour wine and put on it a reed and gave it to him to drink. See, when you started, once you agreed to take the cup, man, that Kohanim said, hey, here you go. You get to drink that thing now. Ma Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? He cried out. He agreed with it. But see, Yahushua is going to do beyond a woman, right? Can you do it? He said, why he going to cry out twice? Ma Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? He cried out the first time. And at once he ran and took a sponge and filled it with sour wine and it put a reed and gave him to drink. But the other said, wait, let's see whether Yahweh will come and save him. Let's see, please, let's see. But guess what? And Yahushua cried out again with a loud voice and yielded the Ruach. That man cried out again. He cried out again and gave up the Ruach. But how's that? He said, that don't say that he did that. Right? You can on chapter 19 and verse 1. You can on chapter 19 and verse 28. You can on chapter 19 verse 28. You can on chapter 19 verse 28. And after this, Yahushua, knowing that all was finished, said to fulfill the scripture, I thirst. A jar of sour wine stood there, and they put a sponge full of sour wine in hyssop branch and held it to his mouth. And who shall receive the sour wine? See, he had to agree with Yahuwah first before he took the sour wine. That's why he said, I pray that they be one even as we are one. Because had Yuchanan not been one with Matthew, you wouldn't know what the heck happened. Because he had one part of it and the other person had the other part. So you wouldn't even know. The only thing you'd be like, I'm confused. No, because he had one part and the other person had the other part. But how you gonna know though? You know, they say they're gonna sit online and steal it. I have everything. No, one person had another part, the other person had the other part. And it says, a jar of sour wine stood there. So they put a sponge full of sour wine on a hyssop branch and held it to his mouth. When Yahushua had received the sour wine, he said, it is finished. And he bowed his head and gave the ruach. So he agreed with it. That's how fast he did that. He said, I agree with you now. Me and you. I cried out twice. Malahim, Malahim. Why hast thou forsaken me? I cried out. That's one time he cried out. But when he cried out, he spoke some words. Malahim, Malahim. Why hast thou forsaken me? That's 3 times he was crying out. And then he cried out again. That's 4 times. He said, I'm a double agree with this. I'm a double agree. But there's a reason why he did that, though. Right, so this is the fourth day of the 4th month, 4th yom of the 4th month. So we're now in the 4th month, out of the 3rd month, so you ain't got nothing to worry. He said, man, he ain't got nothing else to say. But that's actually not true. We're out of the 4th. We're in the 4th month now. You look at the 4th letter of the Aleph. Look at the dollars. You get entranceway, doorway, gateway, portal. Right? You look at all these things. You know, you always talk about why people sitting at the gates. We're talking about a doorway, an entranceway, a gateway has been ministered unto you. Right? We're giving you a doorway to go through. Why? Because you just go through all that from the 1st month to the 3rd month. Now you're in the 4th month, and this is all a part of your understanding. Because if you don't understand it, then how you going to agree with Yahuwah in the way? How you going to agree with him? Because you got to agree with him in order to take this cup, in order to drink the bitter cup. Because it's a bitter cup. And if you keep drinking this bitter cup, something's going to happen to you. Whether good or evil. Because some people drink the bitter cup and they go on bitter for the rest of their life. Some people drink the bitter cup and they recover from it. And ain't nothing happened to them. He said, how come ain't nothing happened to you? He said, how come you drunk the bitter cup and the other person drunk the bitter cup and they went on ahead and they bowels came out and their stomach swelled? Why? How come you ain't nothing happened to you? How come you ain't leave Yahuwah? How come you ain't forsake Yahuwah? You know why? Let me show you why real quick. He said, why? Right, this is the book of Mark. I think it's Mark. Yeah, Mark chapter 16. Mark chapter 16 and verse 17. Mark chapter 16 and verse 17. Mark 16 and 17. And these signs will accompany those who believe. So if you believe this, these signs will accompany you. So if you drink this bitter cup and nothing happens to you, it seems like, man, you keep drinking this bitter cup, and every time you drink this bitter cup, you ain't dead yet. But it says, these signs shall accompany those who believe. In my name they shall cast out demons. How you cast out demons? You know how to cast out demons. You either fast, get them out of your body and your mind, your heart. You either seek after those things which are profitable for your inner being, get it out of your heart, or you need some help. Somebody cast it out for you. But first, you got to try the other stuff first before you start trying to seek it after somebody to lay their hands on you, because you don't want nobody to lay hands on you and they got demons inside of it and they're going to jump inside of your body. And then you're going to find yourself demonically possessed with their demons. Now you're going to have a soul tie with them. They ain't even have intercourse with them. You're going to have a soul tie with them, and you're going to be like, man, how I get this soul tie with this person? Because they touched you. And it says, in my name they shall cast out demons. They will speak with new tongues, new languages. And if they shall pick up serpents with their hands, with their yard. They ain't going to be scared of no snake, no nakash. You know, if you understand, if you believe that Yahuwah's name start with a yard and Yahusha's name start with a yard, you're going to be able to, and you're going to be able to pick up serpents and they ain't going to even bite you. You're going to feel that if you believe they start with a yard, though. That's the only way you're going to do it, with your yard. The 10th letter of your alphabet. That's why you need it. And they will pick up serpents in their hands, and if they drink any deadly poison, oh, you drink that bitter cup, that bitter cup. Why you keep drinking that stuff? That's crazy. It will not hurt them. If you didn't do nothing, ain't nothing gonna happen to you. That's what happens. You ain't gonna say nothing against Yahuwah after you drink the bitter cup. But if you did, I assure you, if you drink the bitter cup and you did something against Yahuwah, I assure you're gonna say it out of your mouth. You be like, why they saying that? It's because they got demons in their liver and their kidneys. Well, when the man had got all the demons cast out of him, how he came to Yahushua? Clothed in his right mind, wasn't he not? He wasn't running his mouth. He like, man, look at here. The bitter cup done came, and them demons done left. Because demons need good wine. Demons don't want no bitter cup. Demons want that good wine. They want to get drunk and say stuff out their mouth they shouldn't say. That's what happens. Yahushua like, ain't time to drink no good wine right now. I got to say that for last. I got to give you all this bitter wine right now. I'm going to say that good wine for last. I'm going to give you this bitter wine first. Get them demons out of you, right? But that's the whole point. And deadly poison, it shall not hurt them. And they will lay their hands on the sick, and they will recover. So how you going to lay hands on the sick and recover? They're going to recover when you got sick, when you sick. When you slander and gossip and lie, and you swindle and extort and you rob, and when you commit adultery and fornicate, when you create false rumors and false lies, how is that going to happen when you're going to open up your yard and try to lay hands on somebody else? All you're going to do is transfer your spirit onto them. You be like, man, why I got the same spirit? We got the same ruach of Amunah, same ruach of slander, same ruach of gossip, same ruach of lying, same ruach of false accusation, same ruach, right? Of spine, same ruach. He said, why I got the same ruach? Same ruach of being hired by Herod to make you somebody afraid. Same ruach to be hired to go in and send somebody to make you feel a certain way. Make you stop doing what you're doing. You got the same ruach they got. It's the same thing. And then what verse 19 says, so then the Adon Yahushua, after he had spoken to them, was taken up to Shamayim and sat down at the right hand of Elohim. You see what Yahushua did? And when that happened? The 5th day of the 3rd month, 49 days from the time he resurrected. I told you that, he said, I pray that they be one even as we are one, because you wouldn't know that if Mattheyahu and Yuchanan and all these people weren't one in Qahalath. You'd be like, I'm confused. Yuchanan don't say what you say. Yuchanan say, I ain't got to say everything. That's why I got Mattheyahu to say some of it too. Y'all trying to make me carry every single thing. That's the whole point. That's how it works. And he said, and he went, and guess what? Guess what it says? And so then Yahushua, the master Yahushua, after he had spoken to them, was taken up into Shamayim and sat down at the right hand of Elohim in his yard. At the yard of Yahuwah. So if you don't believe that Yahuwah got a yard in his right hand, that's what open right hand mean, a yard, then how you can believe that Yahushua sat at his right hand? Because these signs going to accompany those who believe, and with their yard, they're going to be able to do things. But you don't even believe that his name start with a yard. So how in the world are you healing people? But that's a whole nother subject. But let's go. Right, this is 1 Kings chapter 2, Malachim. 1 Malachim, or Akkad Malachim 25, 1 through 7. 1 Kings 25, 1 through 7. And in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, on the 10th day of the month, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babel, he said, why they put Netzar? People say, why they do that? He said, why they put Netzar at the end of his name? Right? Because Netzar means eagle. Because they worship the eagle. That's why we look in the Sumerian text, what do they have? They have an eagle head, and they have the feathers on their skirts. Right? Because they worship the eagle. But anyway, let's get out of here. Netzar. Now, Yahuwah got eagles too now. But I'm just saying, though, Yahuwah got Netzar, and they got Netzar, right? I assure you, you need to be able to discern between good and evil, right? right? But they knew that. And it says, and they came with all his army against Jerusalem and laid siege to it. You see, they don't like Yehoshaphat. They want to take down Yehoshaphat, right? They establish their own, right? And that's what happens. They lay siege to it, and they built siege works around it. So they siege works around the whole city. I mean, weapons of war. Right? So the city was besieged to the 11th year of King Zedekiah. Oh, 2 Kings chapter 25 and verse 1. 2 Kings 25 and 1. Sorry. Correction. 2 Kings 25. 2 Kings 25, 1 through 7. And on the ninth day of the 4th month, right? So that's what month we're in right now. We're in the 4th month. The famine was so severe in the city that there was no food for the people of the land. There was no food. He said, there ain't no food. Right now, it's the 4th month. He said, there wasn't no food. Now, can you imagine? No food right now? With all the way people consume today? What will happen to the people? And guess what? Then a breach was made in the city, and all the men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between the two walls by the king's garden. Why, man? There ain't no food in the land. And then you got people around Jerusalem, no food, and then the people around getting ready to lay siege to the place. And guess what? By the king's garden. He said, what did they do? Then a breach was made in the city, and all the men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between the two walls by the king's garden, and the Chaldeans were around the city. Now you see why. This is, he said, man, this is why Yahushua came on the scene. This is Yuchanan chapter 18. Yuchanan chapter 18 and verse 1. Yuchanan chapter 18 verse 1. And when Yahushua had spoken these words, he went out with his disciples across the brook Kidron, or Nakalah Kudrum, where there was a garden, the king's garden. Matter of fact, the Malak's garden. What else is there? Which he and his disciples entered. He said, man, there wasn't no food. There was nothing in the land. Where all the food was at? With Yahushua? It was all with him. And guess what? Now Judas, who betrayed him, also knew the place, and Yahushua often met there with his disciples. So Yehuda had procured a band of soldiers and some officers from the chief priests and the Pharisees, and went there with lanterns and torches and weapons. He said, man, the whole king of Babel, Nebuchadnezzar, and Babel surrounded the city, and they laid siege to the whole city. And they literally, it was no food, and it was a famine, and they all left out of Jerusalem and went to the garden, the king's garden. And then it all happened at night. And amazingly, this happened at night too. It was a night to be much remembered. But you see how Yahuwah will be repaying people for what they do? He said, I'm going to repay you the very same way you killed my son. I'm going to repay you the same way you killed and took captive my son. That's how it worked. He said, how he going to come back? The same way you took captive and killed my son. Right? So this is going back to 2 Kings 25, 1 and 3. And on the 9th day of the month, on the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine was so severe in the city that there was no food for the people of the land. Then a breach was made in the city, and all the men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between the two walls, right? By the king's garden. And the Chaldeans were around the city, and they went into the direction of Arabah. He said, man, they went into the direction of Arabah. And amazingly, why do you think Yahushua said this to these people? Because everything he said was for a reason. All right, this is the book of Matthew. I think it's flat. Yeah. This is the whole point of this thing. Because he was trying to tell them what was going to happen to him, because you're going to do me the same way. He said the same way, right? Right, so this is the book of Luke. The book of Luke. The book of Luke, Luke chapter 19 and verse 41. Luke, or Aydah, chapter 19 and verse 41. Luke chapter 19, verse 41. And then when he drew near and saw the city, he wept over it. He wept over it, saying, would that you, even you, had known on this day the things that make for peace, shalom. But now they are hidden from your eyes. He said you can't see it. It's hidden from your eyes, your ayin. You know why? Because Yahuwah poured out upon you the ruach of deep sleep. Eyes you cannot see, and ozin you cannot hear. Guess what? For the days will come upon you when your enemies will set a barricade around you. Hey, see, I told you, only reason that's going to happen is because you came and got him by night the very same way that they came and got them by night. Before, they should have already known this when he was talking to them, but they didn't. And guess what? For the days will come upon you when your enemies will set a barricade around you and surround you and hem you in on every side. One day, we just read that. They closed in on everybody and tear you down to the ground. I told you, he said he's going to eat sackcloth. He said, remember he said that? All your feast's going to be turned in the morning in the book of Amos. And you're going to eat sackcloth. And I'm going to make you drink a bitter cup like you made me drink that bitter cup on the cross. Yahushua already telling them what's going to happen to him after he died and rise and ascend and go back to sit at the right hand of Elohim. I'm going to cast you out of Jerusalem again. And tear you down to the ground and your children within you. And they will not leave one stone upon another in you, because you did not know. Because you did not know. So you think Yahuwah, because you don't know nothing? I don't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So you think they're gonna stop Yahuwah from doing his punishment on you because you ain't know? That's why you need to know. Because you didn't know the time. Now you see why you need no time. Everybody need no time. Because you need to know 364-day cycle. You need to know the seasonal cycle. You need to know how things move on the 360 degrees on the circle. He said, I liken my shafat, my mishpat, to a circle. You need to understand how you put the kug on the surface of the deep. How you put the kug on the surface of the earth. You need to understand how you put the circle on the face of the deep. You need to know kagag, to move in procession. Kagag means to move in procession in a circle. You need to understand that. If you don't, and you need to understand it precisely. And if you don't, you didn't know the time of your visitation. You ain't gonna know the time of your visitation. You ain't even gonna know. You ain't even gonna know. And he entered the temple and began to drive out those who sold and say to them, it is written, my house shall be called a house of palau, prayer. But you made it a den of robbers. He said, you made it you a bunch of Satans. You a bunch of thieves. You a den of swindlers and extortioners, because that's what they were. Unjust gain, kamas. What do you think they're doing? 2 turtle doves for 75 shekels, right? 2 ox for 5,000 shekels, right? And knowing they done got it from the nations and probably slept with about 8 different people. 2 goats for 75 shekels. You know these people, you a house of robbers. And he was teaching daily in the temple, and the chief priests and the scribes and the principal men, the head men of the people were seeking to destroy him. What do you think gonna happen to you? They're gonna try to destroy you. You think they ain't trying to destroy you now? Don't you be no fool. First, they take your money. Then they slander you. Then they kill you. That's what they do. So you think they ain't trying to do that now? Why you think he said, why everything, why it seem like as soon as we get money, it goes out of our pocket because we got to spend money to get food, right? You got to do things around, right? But notice how your money, your everything getting diminished inside of you. Because It says, but they did not find anything they could do. See, that's the whole point. For all the people were hanging on his what? They were hanging on what? What he was wearing, his camera, his nice vigor, his accomplishments in life, everything that he did, right? No, they were hanging on his words, his debar. That's what we're hanging on. If you hang on his debar, understand what's going to happen to you, people. And what's going to happen to the person who's debar you hanging on to. It's always been like that. It hasn't been any other way. We're going back to 2 Kings 25 and 5. But the army of the Chaldeans pursued the king and overtook him in the plain of Jericho. That was Sadiq, Yah. King Sadiq, Yah. Righteousness of Yah. That's what his name means. They went on ahead and they what? But the army pursued the king, Sadiq, Yah, righteousness of Yah, overtook him in the plains of Jericho, and all his army was scattered from him. Why didn't they came and got Yahushua by night? They came and got soldiers and they bound him. And then what did they do? They led him away to crucify him. And they captured the king and brought him up to the king of Babal at Riblah. Right? And they passed sentence on him. Didn't they what they did, Yahushua? People have no idea. And you say, why did he do that to us? Because you did it to his son. So being that you did it to his son, I'm going to do the same thing to you in the 4th month. Amazingly, this is the 4th month. He said, I'm going to do it in the 4th month. Matter of fact, I'm going to give you a heads up. What is it, 9th day? You still got 5 more days left. Matter of fact, 360 was 9 too. You got 5 days left. If it was actually hypothetically, if that was going to happen right now, that's what will be happening right now. You still got another 5 days left. So you literally got 9 right there. That's 360 right there. And you almost there right there. Right there in your face. It happened on 9th day. So you still got 5 days left. Right, the book of Yochanan. This just came on my mind. Yochanan chapter 18, verse 2. Yochanan chapter 18, verse 3. So Judas, Yochanan 18 and 3. John chapter 18, verse 3. So Yehuda, having procured a band of soldiers and some officers from the chief priests and the Pharisees, went there with lantern, torches, and weapons. You mean the king of Babylon, because y'all like Babel. Y'all like Babal. You're like Nebuchadnezzar. You worship 4-footed beasts and animals and birds and creeping things. You make idols. Like we just talked about last week. You make idols. You make idols of cast metal. And guess what he did? Knowing all that will happen to him. And then Yahushua, knowing all that will happen to him, how he knew it? Because he already read the book of 2 Kings chapter 25. He came to fulfill the Torah. That's how he knew. So I remember I said it's better to know than not to know. I don't know what's getting ready to happen. No, you don't need to know. You need to know. That's why his disciples were sleeping. No, you need to know. That's why you need to know. He said, I don't need to know this. Yes, you do. You need to know these things. And knowing that all that happened to him, how you going to be like Yahushua? I already immersed him and put him on, you don't know. That's the whole point. Then Yahushua, knowing all that would happen to him, came forward and said to them, whom do you see? He already knew it was that Sadiq Yah. He said, I'm the righteousness of Yah. That's why you think he came and got king. His name means righteousness of Yah. Why do you think he called him Melchizedek, Malak Sadiq, the king of righteousness? Why do you think he was saying a man without beginning of days or ending of days? Why do you think they did that when Abraham gave him a 10? Why do you think they said that in the book of Aydah? He's like a man, he like Melchizedek. This Melchizedek, a man without beginning of days and ending of days. Why do you think Shaul wrote that? They came and got him at night, the very same way they did Yahushua Mashiach, right? And guess what? Knowing all that will happen to him, came forward and said to them, whom do you seek? They answered, Yahushua of Nazareth. Yahushua said to them, I am he. And Yehuda betrayed him, was standing with them. And when Yahushua said, I am he, they drew back to the ground. Isn't that what he said? We just read that. He said they drew to the ground. You know why they fell to the ground? Because he said, I'm just showing you what's going to happen to you when they lay siege to your city and cast you to the ground. So just know when you came and got me, just know it just activated my punishment on you and Jerusalem when they cast you to the ground and lay siege to Jerusalem after I die, rise, and ascend. And I explain my disciples for 49 days, and I get to the third month in Chdsh, they get power on high, but then the fourth month come and I have to do some things according to Torah against you. Because I am Yahuwah, I change not. But guess what? And when Yahusha said to them, I am he drew back and fell to the ground. So he asked them again, whom do you seek? Because he had to agree with them. I can't just gonna go with you, be like, yeah, I'm gonna go with you. No, I have to agree to go with you. I gotta do it twice. That's why he had to drink, that's why he had to agree with them. Amin. Whom do you seek? And they said, Yahusha of Nazareth. Yahusha answered, I told you I am he. So if you seek me, let these men go. That's the whole point. That was to fulfill the word spoken of those. Close that. And he says, spoken of those who go, whom you gave me, I have not lost one. This was to fulfill the word he had spoken of those whom you gave me. I have lost not one. Then Simon Cobb, having a sword, drew it and struck the High Khan's servant and cut off his right ear. He's like, see, because you got to understand, they laying siege. They surrounding them. Think about it. If a whole bunch of men came around you, surround you, your family, your Isha, what you going to do? You going to sit there? Let's talk this through. No, you're not going to sit here and talk this through. Somebody going to die. Right? And guess what he did? In the servant's name, because, they said, cut off his ear. So Yahusha said to Cobb, put your sword in your sheath. Should I not drink of the cup? Now you see why he had to drink it. He had to agree with them. That's why he had to say it twice. Whom do you seek? He had to agree with them. He had to drink the bitter cup. The cup that the woman had to drink. The same woman who committed adultery and lay with another man, he had to drink that cup. He had to drink that cup. He had to bear the iniquity whether you did it or not, whether you would drink it or not. He had to drink it. He said, put your sword in your sheath. Shall I not drink of the cup my father has given me? See, he agreed with it. See, that's what happens. A woman, you're going to have to agree with this punishment you're going to have to get if you say you didn't commit no adultery, though. I ain't commit no adultery. I'm going to drink this cup. You sure? You sure? Because Yahushua was the only one. Yahuwah in the flesh, in the Son, was the only one who could drink that cup. I assure you, you'd have drunk that cup. Your belly gonna swell. And I assure you, after they get done with you, your thigh gonna rot. Because he the only one who could do it. Who else gonna do it? So the band of soldiers and the captain and the officers of the Yahudim arrested Yahusha and bound him. First they led him to Ananias, for he was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, who was a Hakahan that year. It was Caiaphas who had advised the Yahudim it was expedient that one man should die for the people, right? Going back to 2 Kings 25 and 6. Then they captured the king, Sadakiah, right? They captured the king, Sadakiah, and brought him up to the king of Babal and Ribnah. That's what we just read with Yahusha. And they passed sentence on him. That's what they just did. They slaughtered the sons of Sadakiah before his eyes. Now you see why Yahusha said, if you seek me, let these other men go. What do you think would have happened if they got captured? They would have died. They would have killed them too. And it wasn't time for them to die. If he'd have killed them, he wouldn't have had 12 disciples. He said, I need 12. Hold on, I need 12. I got 12 gates. 3 to the north, 3 to the south, 3 to the east, 3 to the west. If they die, then all my stuff ain't gonna be accomplished. I need 4 gates. And I need 12 thrones. Hold on now. You can't kill all my sons now. You can kill that one that's right here though. That's in my face. Yehuda. You can kill him. But the other ones, no, you gotta let them 11 go. I'll find somebody else. Right? And he put out the eyes of Zedekiah and bound him in chains and took him to Babylon. Isn't that what they did usually? They blindfolded him, right? He said, no, they didn't blindfold him. Yes, they did, right here. Because you know how people going to say, you ain't show that. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Right, this is the book of Luke chapter 22, Aydah 22 and 63. Aydah 22 and 63. Luke 22, 63. Now the men who were holding Yahusha in custody was mocking him as they beat him. I told you. They were beating him in prison, in custody. And they also blindfolded him and kept asking him, Naba, prophesy, who it is that struck you. They blindfolded him. They put out his eyes, Zedekiah. And when the day came, the assembly of the elders and the people gathered together. Why? Because it all happened at night. Isn't that what happened just here? Going back to 2 Kings 25 and 7. They slaughtered the sons of Zedekiah, before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah and bound him in chains and took him to Babylon. Right, Babel. On the next slide, that word for Arabah. That word for Arabah, and the Chaldeans were around the city, and they went in the direction of Arabah. That word for Arabah is desert plain. They took him to a desert plain. It means a steppe, a wilderness, a desert. It means evening. It says a plain, a wilderness. He said they took him to the desert plain. Why do you think Yahusha, what did they do? Why do you think Yahusha said, I thirst? Why do you think he did that? He said, I thirst. Why do you think he did that? Because they took him to a place of skull. He's like, man, I am thirsty. It's hot out here. Why do you think Yahuwah had this darkness for 69,000? He's like, man, I got to block the sun for a bit. Man, it's hot. And I'm thirsty. But that's the whole point. But he took him to the desert plain. Right, but that's the whole point. This is your book of Jeremiah 52, Jeremiah 52, 1 through 11. This is Jeremiah chapter 52, 1 through 11. Right, same account, different book. That's why he said, I pray that they be one, even as we are one. You know how they say? But that's the whole point. Because one person got one part, and the other person, here, hold up, you ain't had that in there. Right? It is Jeremiah 52, 1 through 11. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, Malak. And he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. So what's 21 plus 11? Right? What's 21 plus 11? 32. 32. Right? 32. His mother's name was Hamutal, and the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did what was evil in the sight of Yahuwah. So everything that happened to Zedekiah, even though his name meant Zedekiah, right? My name is Zedekiah. But he was still wicked though. He ain't follow righteousness. So you can have the name all you want. But if your behavior don't line up with your name, Yahuwah got Yahushua. Why do you think Yahushua had to come in Zedekiah? He's like, Zedekiah that you read about ain't nothing. That's why who I am. So everything, all the punishment that Zedekiah got was just. And he was getting beat down when they took him captive. And guess what? And he says, and he did that was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, according to all that Akim had done. He said, Jehoiakim have done, right? For because of the anger of Yahuwah, it came to the point in Jerusalem and Yehuda that he cast them out from his presence, right? So that's the whole point. He said, that's how Yahuwah cast you out of his presence. They still siege around you. They take everything you got. Then they cast you, then they take you in custody and they cast you into prison. That's how Yahuwah take you out of his presence. He said, why do you think they took Yahusha like that? And Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babel, and he still had that evil in his heart. He rebelled even against the king of Babel. And in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, on the 10th day of the month, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came with all his army against Jerusalem and laid siege to it. So he started in the 10th month. And they built siege works around it. So the city was besieged to the 11th year of King Chdsh. So you see how long that is? So that means from 21 all the way to 32. That meant Babylon was like, I'm finna take you down for what y'all. He said, so he kept him around for that long. You see how long that is? That's a long time. Think about it. That's a long time. And on the 9th day of the month, 9th day of the 4th month, that's this month, the famine was so severe on the city that there was no food for the people of the land. Why? Because when they come, they see you, they block your water. They dam out your water. So you think, what's that noise we hear outside? They blocking the river. They damming up the water. No water flowing through the rivers. They found our water source, and there's a famine. That's how they get you. Because it's called war. When you start rebelling against people, it's called war. You say, why is the water dammed up around here? Because there was a big giant war here. Where the land you stand on, there was a giant war here. And the only thing you can beat people is cut off their food supply, cut off their water. But if the word of Yahuwah was around, then it would have been different. But being that the word of Yahuwah, the bar was gone. Right? But guess what? Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came with all his army against Jerusalem. And they laid siege to it, and they built siege work around it, so that the city was besieged to the 11th year of King Chdsh. And on the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine was so severe in the city that there was no food for the people of the land. He said, I sent a famine in the land. Not of bread and water, but of hearing to the bar. Because Chdsh had heard the bar and heard it right, he would have never did what he did. He would have never done evil in Yahuwah's sight, and he would not have rebelled against Babal. Why? Because that's what happens. Because you know when you rebel against Yahuwah make you make erratic decisions that you should not do. You ain't inquire of Yahuwah, what did I say to do? That's the whole point. Because when you don't inquire of Yahuwah, then you find yourself in these situations. Verse 7 says, then a breach was made in the city, and all the men of war fled and went out from the city by night by the way of the gate between the two walls. Why do you think Yahushua was between two thieves? He said, between the two walls, by the king's garden. He said, man, you see what? And the Chaldeans were around the city, and they went in the direction of Arabah, the desert, the wilderness. But the army of the Chaldeans pursued the king and overtook Chdsh in the plain of Jericho, and all his army was scattered from him. And they captured the king and brought him up to the king of Babal and Riblah in the land of Hamath and passed sentence on him. And why they asked Yahushua, you don't hear all these things they testify against you? And he answered them not a word. And they all marveled too, remember? But all the sentences they passed against Chdsh, can he say that? He ain't do nothing wrong. The king of Babylon slaughtered the sons of Chdsh before his eyes. Iniquity of the fathers fall upon the children. That's why you don't want to do nothing against Yahuwah. He just said he killed all his sons too. Before his eye, right in front of his face. Isn't that what happened to Yahushua Mashiach? For all he so loved the world, he gave his only son, and he was killed right in front of his face. Yahuwah sitting on his throne watching his son get killed right in front of his face. Think about it. Now you see why Yahuwah came and destroyed Jerusalem and cast Yehuda out of there. You'd be like, man, they wrong, boy. These people. No. You wrong. It ain't got nothing to do with no them people. That's just Yahuwah's judge. That's Yahuwah's people. When he comes send them people after you, that's Yahuwah people. That his people. come and get you out of Jerusalem because of your ignorance and your stupidity. It has nothing to do with them people, these white people, these other people. No, them Yahuwah people. Yahuwah sent them people to get you out of there because he was tired of you. That's the whole point. You know, people don't want to believe it like that. They want to believe it according to the anger and rage, hatred, right? And envy. No, it's because you were evil. Had you not been evil, we wouldn't be here. Nobody would be confused as they are today. But being that everybody will ride and you don't believe on his son, then that's what? He just keep blinding you more and more and more until you completely fall to the ground. Because he's always been doing this for a long time. Like, we be thinking like everything, you know, expect judgment. Just like we said, if you sin willfully as you come in the knowledge of the truth, there remains no sacrifice for sins. So everything that one does after they hear the bar, just like Zedekiah, Sadakiah had a chance to do that too. They had that opportunity too. So please don't be thinking like, yeah, what happened to me? No, it's because you didn't do what he said. It's really that simple. And some people sugarcoat that, right? Try to make people feel all right. Verse Yirmiyahu 52:9. Then they captured the king and brought him to the king of Babal and Riblah in the land of Hamath, and he passed sentence on him. And the king of Babal slaughtered his sons Zedekiah before his eyes, and also slaughtered all the officials of Yehuda at Riblah. He even slaughtered the officials. And he put out the eyes of Sadakiah, or Sadakiah, and bound him in chains. And the king of Babal took him to Babal and put him in prison till the day of his death. Say what? That man gave him life in prison. He said, he gave you life in prison. You know why he did that? Because you think about it. If you're rebelling against the laws that don't go against the Torah in a land that you're supposed to be examples of righteousness and Sadiq and Sadaqah, and you don't do it, you rebel. And guess what happens? And if it don't go against Yahuwah's the bar, and you purposely doing evil to people, and the king of Babylon took him to Babal and put him in prison to the day of his death, you get life in prison. You can't go around here just committing murder. You can't go around here just extortion and going against federal laws. You can't do that. Why do you think Yahuwah should say, what do you think he said this, John? You can't do that. People be thinking like you just do what you want. You're supposed to be examples of all things that Yahuwah said, right? And then you know what happens after that? Then you'll find yourself in some serious trouble. Right? And that's the whole point. And this is the book of this is the whole point. If they don't go against Yahuwah the bar, that's the whole point. These are all a part of it. Right, it's the book of, I think it's 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians. Yeah, this is 1 Corinthians. Was it 1 Corinthians? Yeah. It's 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 32. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 32. 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and 32. What do I gain if, humanly speaking, I fought with beasts at Ephesus? If the dead are not raised, let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die. He said, let's continue to do that. Do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals. That's the whole point. Don't be deceived. Wake up from your drunken stupor, right? As is right. And do not go on sinning. That's the whole point. Because you all got an opportunity. But at the same time, some people can do things and you ain't gonna listen, and you're gonna be in prison for life. Because that's what happened to Sadakiah, right? And he did evil inside of Yahuwah. So you already know, if he did evil inside of Yahuwah, Yahuwah gave him up to do all things he should not do. And you know what happens after that? Life in prison. And you ain't gonna get out till you paid every last penny. We just talked about that last week. Wake up from your drunken stupor as it is right, and do not go on sinning, for some have no knowledge of Elohim. He said, because some people don't know. And you think it's good not to know. I don't know that. But you sure don't want to know. I say this to your shame. See, now you see what happens to you. To your shame. Right? And that all happened in the 4th month. That all happens in this month. You know, this month right here. This month. Ain't no feast day for 3 months. 4th month, 5th month, and 6th month. What a cogmore out of that. So literally, you better wake up from your drunken stupor and do not go on sinning for this 3 months. It's Yekaziel chapter 1, Ezekiel chapter 1, 1 through 6. In the 13th year, in the 4th month, you got 13 and 4. And you be like, why he need 4? Why you got 364? The 4 seasonal cycle and the 4 transition times. And why does 364 equal a 13? It's right there in your face. In the 13th year, in the 4th month, on the 5th day of the month, oh, it's the 4th day, so that's tomorrow, when the sun goes down. If it was hypothetically in that time. As I was among the exiles of ChayParach, by the Kibar Canal, so where you be at? Your settings do have a rivers flowing. It does affect what you see. The heavens were open, the Shamaim were open, and I saw visions of Elohim. He said, man, I saw visions of Elohim. On the 5th day of the month, it was the 5th year of the exiles of the king of Jehoiakim. The word of Yahuwah came to Yekaziel, the priest, the Kahan, because why he called him the priest? He said, you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a royal Kahanim, diadem Kahanim, who show forth the halal of him who called you out of darkness into this marvelous light. He was a priest, because the book of Devarim 18 says, the inheritance of the priest is Yahuwah and his promises. And guess what? And on the 5th day of the month, it was the 5th year of the exiled king Jehoiakim. The word of Yahuwah came to Yekaziel and the priest, the son of Buzai, in the land of the Chaldeans by Kibar the canal, and the hand of Yahuwah was upon him there. He said the yard of Yahuwah. So how you get a Kazum and you ain't even believe it yard? You got a vision? I assure you. Some people say they have visions, right? They be saying all these things. I'll be like, there's a lot of things people don't know about this place. How many spells been cast on these places? And how many wizards and warlocks running around here? And people have no idea. Verse 4. And as I looked, behold, a stormy wind came out of the north. Amazingly, what happens? A stormy wind came out of the north, or Safun, right? Because you know the north that word for north is Safun. And a great cloud with brightness around it. He said, man, it was a great cloud, bright. It came out of the north too. It came out of the north. And fire flashing forth continually. Man, fire was flashing forth continually. It will not stop. And in the midst of the fire, as it were, a gleaming metal. Now you see why I tell you don't make we making idols of cast metal. You know what they do to that? Look at that thing in the sky. They make idols of cast metal. And in the midst of it came the likeness of 4 living creatures. He'd be like, man, why you need that 4? Maybe they're having it in a 4th month. Then you come out with 4 living creatures. Then you got 4 living creatures out of there. 4. He said, why you need that 4? You need them 4. You ain't gonna be looking at the Shamaim and the stormy clouds and rains. When he said the Shamaim were open, he's talking about it was raining. It was a storm cloud coming. You know a storm cloud? You ever seen a storm cloud coming? There was a storm cloud coming, and it was lightning and flashing, and fire was inside of it, that storm cloud. And amazingly, what they show you. They'll show you pictures of that, But he said it was a storm in a fiery cloud. How you going to do that if you don't believe in the seasonal cycles? Because seasonal cycles around this time, fourth month, what season this is? What you get? Storm cloud, whirlwinds, hurricanes, right? Amazing. You have all these hurricanes and storms. You see tornado, you be like, man, you be visited by your hood with earthquakes, storm, fire, vapor of smoke. They be like, what just happened? It's the 4th month. Man, my whole house got destroyed. You must have done something evil in the side of your hood. That's the only way your house got destroyed. What you do that's evil. Why would your hood destroy your house? Why did he destroy the house of the king and the priest when Jeremiah wrote to them and said the king of Babylon gonna take y'all into captivity? He said, he gonna destroy, he gonna take your house too. It's the 4th month. What do you expect? It's better to know than not to know. It'd be like, I don't know why that's happened. Because these are all a part of his punishments. And it says, and in the midst of it came the likeness of 4 living creatures. And this was the appearance. They had a human likeness. They had a what? They look like Adam. Because that's what that word for human is Adam. They look like Adam. Aleph, Daleth, Meme. The strength of the door. And water. Aleph, Daleth, Meme. Because Dam mean blood. Strength in the blood. You'd be like, what happened? Why Yahushua's blood had to be shed? He had the appearance of human likeness. And each had 4 faces. And you'd be like, man, why I need 4? Because every last one of the people, that's why it's 4 days that you add the 360 days to get to the transition of the seasons. Because the seasons show you when what? It shows you about each Malachim. It shows you the 4 transition times. We just passed it. We passed the first one. That was the first one. But guess what that transition does? Shows you when we just passed the summer solstice. It just shows you what time it is. What time is it? Famine time. What time is it? Storm time. What time is it? Whirlwind time. What time is it? Fire time. Hot. That's what time it is. You know, that's what time it is. It shows you the time. You don't know the time of your visitation. Because he said, you're going to be visited by Yahuwah. You know, Yahuwah said they're going to lay siege to your city because you didn't know the time of your visitation. Because you don't know time of your visitation. Because he coming to visit you. And when Yahuwah come visit you, understand, it's not that difficult. Because it's better to know than not to know. It's better to know than not to know. This is Yeshayahu 29 and 10. Isaiah 29 and 10. Actually, go to 29 and 9. Yeshayahu 29 and 9. This is why Hanuk was a part of the understanding. Because if you don't understand it, you ain't going to understand the time. And if you understand the time, you don't know what's going to happen. That's why Yahushua knew everything that was going to happen. He said, you know in their hearts. Does this also offend you? Because you already know. When you don't know, you ain't like him. I'm telling you. People say, no, you're not. You have to know to be like him. Yeshayahu 29 and 9. Astonish yourselves and be astonished. Blind yourselves and be blind. He's like, just be blind. Be drunk, but not with wine. He said, don't get drunk with wine. Stagger, but not with strong drink. For Yahuwah has poured upon you the ruach of deep sleep. And has closed your eyes. And covered your heads. Why? Because you got baldness in your head. We just read that. And almost. He said, I'm going to give you, you'll turn your whole feast to mourning, and you're going to have baldness on your head. He covered your heads, the seers. And the vision of those that become like the words of a book that is sealed. When men give it to one who can read, saying, read this, he's saying, I cannot, for it is sealed, because I'm blind. I don't know this. And when they give it to a book, someone who cannot read, saying, read this, he says, I cannot read. And Yahuwah said, because this people draw near with their mouth and honor me with their lips. Sadakya. That's what his name means. While their hearts are far from me. And their fear of me is as a commandment taught by men. Seize him. They sought to arrest Yahushua too. It was taught by men. Guess what? Therefore, behold, I will again do wonderful things with this people. Woo. And wonders upon wonders. And the wisdom of their wise shall be, men shall perish. And the discernment of the discerning men shall be hidden. Why? Because I'm going to send a famine in the land. And you know what happens after that? You know what happens? You know what happens after he sends a famine in the land? There's something that happens to you. Right? Skipping over to going to verse 6. Yeshayahu 29:6. You will be visited by Yahuwah of hosts with thunder, and with earthquake, and with great noise, and with whirlwinds, and tempests, and flames of devouring fire. And the multitude of all nations shall fight against Ariel, you mean Jerusalem. And all that fight against her and her strongholds and distress her shall be like a dream and a vision of the night. Oh. They're going to be just like a vision of the night. And what happened when they came and got Jerusalem? It happened at night, didn't it? When they got Yahushua? At night. And they laid siege to him. They did it all at night. As when a hungry man dreams. Then we just read in Jeremiah 52, was there any food in the land? He like, man, ain't no food. It's like, man, it's like a vision or something. This got to be a vision. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real. Right? You know how it is. As a hungry man dreams, behold, he is eating and awakes, and his hunger is not satisfied. This is the dream, Jeremiah. This is not real. No food? No, it's not real. It's not real. It's not real. This is not happening. Right? You know how it is. And guess what happens? And as when a thirsty man dreams, and behold, he is drinking and awakes and faint with thirst, not quenched. You know what Yahushua said on the totality? He did. I thirst. This is not happening. This is not happening. It's like a vision of the night. So, and guess what? And he darkened it from the 6th to the 9th hour. Gotcha. Gotcha. You awake from your dream, you be like, I thirst. Why do you think he gave it at the 9th hour? Because it had to be no more nighttime in order for him to drink it. He wake from his dream and he had nothing to drink. And they gave him sour wine to drink, gave him that bitter cup. He said he had to stop it at the 9th hour. He's like, 9th hour, about the 9th hour. Yeah, about that time, yeah. So the multitude of the nations, so shall the multitude of the nations be that fight against Mount Zion. He said, they're going to be just like that. Hunger. Thirst. That's what they're gonna do to you. That's why he said that's how they're gonna be. They're gonna be like, I'm gonna cut your food supply off. I'm gonna cut your water supply off. You like, why they be doing that in them wars? You be like, man, they ain't giving them no food. They just keep bombing their behind. You be like, they say you might want to take notes. That's what you would be doing. That's wrong. Exactly. Because when you start doing wrong, man, I'm telling you, people think this is not. It's already happening right now. Verse 9, astonish yourselves and be astonished, blind yourselves and be blind, be drunk, but not with wine. Now you see why. He said, you drunk. I can't see that. Exactly. That's the whole point. This is going back to Ezekiel chapter 1 and verse 6. Yekaziel chapter 1 verse 6. But each had 4 faces and each of them had 4 wings. He said, see, this is why you need them 4 days. They had 4 wings. You need that. Why? Now you see why they had 4 wings. Now you see why it was an abomination. Because when you start having 4 wings, you start doing that. That's why. Now you see why Babal was mimicking certain things. There's a reason why they were doing it. There's a reason why Netzar, he was jealous, boy. He's like, man, no. I'm the one with the 4 wings. I'm the one with 4 faces. I'm the one, right? And that's what happens. But that was Yahuwah's jealousy, though. That was Yahuwah's kinah, because you worship idols, so he put his jealousy in somebody else to come take you down. How else people gonna do it? I have to get them. I'm so jealous of you. My jealousy is in Nebuchadnezzar. That's my jealousy. Because you worship idols. You worship other gods. And you call them their name. And you rebel against me, Sadakia. So that's the same thing you got to be. You got to be the righteousness of Yah in the earth. And if you rebel against Yahuwah, guess what happens? The iniquity of the fathers falls upon the children. Being that you despise wisdom and nurture it according to the book of Sirach, your wives are foolish and your children wicked. It's not that difficult. So that word for visions, it says, and I saw visions. That word for vision is marah. Marah. It means mode of revelation. Oh, you mean the fourth month? He say mode of revelation, mirror. You know how people say looking in the mirror? He said mirror, a looking glass. That's what happens when you peer into another world. When you see yourself in the mirror and you see your reflection, that's not who you are. That person on the other side of that mirror exists and it's trying to control you. That is not who you are. That's what people need to understand. Right? This is you know how it is when you look in the mirror. You know what happens when you look in the mirror. Right? This is the book of James. This is the book of Yaakov, the book of James, chapter 1, and verse 22. So this is the whole point of this whole thing. The book of James, chapter 1, and verse 22. Satan, I tell you. Yeah, but we're going to get there. 1 in verse 22. But be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourself. So you'll deceive yourself if you're not a hearer of the word. You're not a doer of it. That's why Sadakia, you will deceive. For if you are for anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in the mirror. And he does what? For he looks at himself and goes away and at once forgets what manner he was like. You forget. But the one who looks into the perfect Torah law of liberty and perseveres, being not a hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be barak in his doing. That's the whole point. It said he's going to be barak in his doing. Why? That's the whole point. That's the whole point, right? So this is the book of. Yeah, I know why you did that. I know why you did that. So this is the book of Job. The book of Job, chapter 22 and verse 21. Chapter 22 and verse 21. Job 22:21. Agree with Elohim and be at peace with him. Why? Why you gotta be at peace with him? Guess what it says? And good will come to you. That's the whole point. Why? So that word for agree is sakan. The word for agree is sakan. The word for agree is sakan. Why? It says agree. Because if you don't agree with them, you ain't going to be at peace with them. Why do you think Yahusha had to agree with taking that cup? So he can make peace with Yahuwah for you. And it says, agree with all and be at shalom or shalom with him. Thereby good will come to you. So it says that word for agree is sakan. It means service or profit or benefit, use of service, servitor, steward. So he said be a good steward. Be of good steward with all. To be used, to be want, to have habit, live in harmony, familiar with, to know intimately. he's saying, know him intimately. And guess what? It says, be familiar, to treasure, right? Serviceable, to minister. He say, agree with all and be at shalom or peace, thereby good will come to you. You got to be in peace. But if he lay siege around you and he surround you on every side and then he got all these charges against you and you go to prison, and guess what happens? You ain't got no peace. Ain't no peace, man. You ain't gonna get out till you paid every last penny. You're gonna be sawed. He got my feet chained. And that's the whole point. But he said, know him intimately. This is book of Amos 3, 1 through 3. 1 through 3. And it says, hear the word that Yahuwah has spoken against you, O people of Yasharal, against the whole family that I brought out of the land of Mizraim. We just did that first month. You only have I known of all the family there. He's like, man, you're the only woman I got. He said, you. Therefore, I will punish you for your iniquity. He said, man, I'm going to punish you. I don't know nobody else. You the only families I know. What other families he know? Please don't be saying other families, because he only got 4. He got 4 gates. He got 12 gates. And guess what? Them 12 tribes, he's like, you are the families I know. And all who joined to Yasharal. And now you see why that Ruach Kinah was so important. Because that man will have iniquity on his heart. And then Yahuwah start punishing him. You'd be like, man, why all this? Because you still got the Ruach Kinah inside of you. Wrath, anger, jealousy, envy. Because you're thinking something that may not be true because of stealth behavior, because of what people are doing. So you got Ruach Kinah inside of you. Yahuwah punishing your inward parts. That's why I say every person who name the name of Yahuwah depart from iniquity, because you got to. You got to put it away. Therefore, good will come to you, because you have to agree with him what he taught. So you got to agree with it in order for you to actually good to come to you. So I got to agree with it. He's like, yeah. And if you don't agree with it, then that means you don't accept it as your conviction. Then nothing's good going to happen to you. You got to know him intimately. If you don't, and he said, I don't want to know, then guess what? No good going to come to you, because you don't want to know him intimately. That's the same thing with Edie Shaw. Don't want to know anything about the person she with. You ain't going to know him intimately. To know somebody intimately is something that you have to do. Then therefore good will come to you, right? So then that's why nothing good happens. So when you know Yahuwah intimately, you know, I don't want to make him jealous, because if I do, that's not going to be a good thing that's going to happen to me. That's what has same thing. You got to think like that. People say, if you don't know, then you're going to make mistakes. And those mistakes going to cost you. People don't know that. Man, that thing might cost you, man. Do two walk together unless they agree to meet? So you got to agree. I got to agree. Yeah, you got to agree with it. Do two walk together unless they agree to meet? That's what it says in verse 3. So if two people are going to walk, if Yahuwah going to walk with you, you got to agree to meet with him. Because that's the only way you're going to know him intimately. I don't know him. Okay. Let's meet. Let's talk. Let's have an understanding so you can get to know me. Because that's the only way you're going to know me. You ain't agreed to meet. How do you settle disputes? You don't want to meet. Because that's why he said, you don't want to meet with me, do you? Because you know if you meet with me, then you're going to find out the truth about you. That's the whole point. And you don't want to hear the truth. That's why they don't want to hear the truth about themselves. And then that's why Yahushua had to die. Right? This is Amos. That word for meat is ya'ad. And amazingly, it starts with a yad. The hand of Yahuwah, right? It means to what? That word for agree, that word for agree is ya'ad. I don't know why it did that, but that's what it did. The word for agree is ya'ad. Actually, it is meet. I'm sorry. The word for meet is ya'ad. It means to fix. It means to fix, to appoint, to meet, to set, to betroth. To betroth, right? To appoint, assign. It also means to meet by appointment, to cause to meet, to be set, to be placed, to be fixed, to fix. He said, I want to fix something. Engage, to engage for marriage, to meet. You gotta meet. Can two walk together except they agree to ya'ad? Yad? You gotta meet. Meet together, betroth together, to gather, assemble. That's the only way you're gonna get married. He's like, if you don't want to meet the person, that's fine. It makes no point. I don't want to meet the person I'm going to. That makes no sense. I'm trying to fix something, but you don't want to meet with somebody because you don't want to look the person in the face. Let's take this cup of jealousy right quick and see what happens. Let's do this other thing. Let's fix this thing. What really happened? Because that's the whole point. Once you do that, then things will get fixed. But if you don't, ain't nobody gonna agree. If you don't agree, ain't nobody gonna meet with nobody, right? Nobody wants to. But you gotta do it. You're odd though. You gotta meet. But that's the whole point of that. This is Dabarim Hayamim, First Chronicles, Dabarim Hayamim, chapter 13. That's right. 13, 1 through 4. First Chronicles, Dabarim Hayamim, chapter 13, 1 through 4. First Chronicles, Dabarim Hayamim, chapter 13, 1 through 4. And Dawid consulted with the commanders of thousands and of hundreds and every leader. That's what he did. He consulted with them. And Dawid said to all the assembly of Yasharal, if it seems good to you, and from Yahuwah our Elohim, let us send abroad to our brothers who remain in all the land of Yasharal, as well as to the Kohanim and Lui, in the cities that have pasture lands, that they may be gathered to us. Say what? To do what? Why did he say that? Then let us bring again the ark of our Elohim to us. He say, what? See, people don't want to bring the ark of Elohim. So that's why they don't want to carry it inside of their body. Because you know what happens when you carry the ark of Yahuwah inside of your body and you have another God next to it? It activates. And when it activates, that's when plagues come. You know, those things that people don't want to deal with. And get what it says. For we did not seek it, in the days of Shaul. He said we weren't even seeking the room with the couple rows with the mercy seat on top of it, with the Aydah, the testimony inside of it. We weren't seeking it. We ain't had nothing. We ain't know nothing about the four corners of the ark with the two stakes in it and carrying it and NASA it and carrying it and carrying it. We ain't know nothing about that. We ain't know. All the assembly or Qahalath agreed to do so. So it wasn't like, this is my commandment, right? And what I want it to be, right? No. Everybody had to agree with it. So that means everybody. So it wasn't just like one person say something and everybody just blah, 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 blah. I just agree with everything he say. You don't want to do that. See, that's the problem. You end up messing around. You end up agreeing to something you shouldn't agree with. And all the assembly agreed to do so, for the thing was right in the eyes of all the people, not just you. That's the whole point. Not just you. See, that's the whole point. I pray that they be one even as we are one. You know how they say? But it says in the eyes of all the people. Because you mess around, you're going to do something you shouldn't do, right? I'm going to show you. He said, what? This is the book of, I think it's Kings. Let me see. Because this is the whole point. This is the whole point. This is Aleph Shamuel, chapter 13. Aleph Shamuel, chapter 13, and verse 1. Or Aleph Shamuel, chapter 13, and verse 2. Aleph Shamuel, chapter 13, and verse 2. And Saul chose 3,000 men of Yasharal, 2,000 with Saul in Michmash, and the hill country of Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin. And the rest of the people sent home every man to his tent. And Jonathan defeated the garrisons of the Philistines that were at Geba, and the Philistines heard of it. And Saul blew the Turah throughout the land, saying, let the Hebrews hear. And then all Yasharal heard it, and said, Shaul has defeated the garrisons of the Philistines. Who actually won the battle? Jonathan defeated it. But Saul, you know how Saul is. Ain't finna be no Daud, his 1,000. Shaul, his 1,000. Daud, his 10. Ain't gonna be no Jonathan, his defeat and his war, bro. It's gonna be mine. It ain't gonna be no Daud slew his 10,000 and Saul his 1,000. Not this time. It's going to be, I don't care if it's my only son. It's going to be Saul won the battle of the garrison. Jonathan ain't do nothing. Right? But that's what Yahushua said, though, remember? He said, my father, he said, why callest thou me good? There's only one good, Yahuwah alone. For this man's belief, I didn't do nothing, Yahuwah do the work. You know what he said? But you see how Saul is. I'm going to show you how Saul, this is a dual meaning, though. I'm going to show you how Saul is, though. This is the reason why he said all the people agreed. It was good in all the eyes of the people. Because all this stuff that Saul was doing, a lot of people be thinking Saul was innocent. Saul still carried them spirits, even into his whole family. Right? Right, so this is the book of, this is the whole point. Yeah, so this is the book of 1 Samuel, Aleph Shamuel, chapter 14, and verse 1. Aleph Shamuel, 1 Samuel, chapter 14, verse 1. One day, Jonathan, the son of Saul, said to the young man who carried his armor, come, let us go over to the Philistines in the garrison on the other side. But he did not tell his father. See, when you start doing things stealthy, what happens to you? You get the ruach of jealousy. But you know what, Saul is good at jealousy. He had that ruach kinah. When that ruach kinah come upon Saul, when you start doing things stealthy, when you start doing things without the person knowing, you know what happens to Saul. Saul get jealous, man, when he found out. Let me show you. Come, let us go over to the Philistines, the garrison on the other side, but he did not tell his father. So Saul was staying in the outer skirts of Gibeah in the pomegranate cave. He was in the pomegranate cave at Migron. He was in the pomegranate cave. You know, the bells and whistles, you know, the things are there. With the priests and all that. Getting pomegranates to put on the end of their garments to make them give the sound vibrational frequency. Then the people who were with him were 600 men, including Ahijah, the son of Ahitub, and Ichabod's brother, the son of Phinehas, the son of Eli, the priest of Yahuwah in Shiloh, wearing an ephod. And the people did not know that Jonathan had gone. See, when you start to leave and nobody knows, that creates what? Ruach jealousy when you come back. And they find out what you did, right? But it says within the pass, it says, Verse 4. And within the passes by which Jonathan sought to go over to the Philistine garrison, there was a rocky crag on the one side of the rocky crag and on the other side. The name of the one was Bozez, and the name of the other was Seneh. And the one crag rose on the north in front of Michmash, and the other on the south in the front of Geba. And Jonathan said to the young man who carried his armor, "Come, let us go over to the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that Yahuwah will work for us, for nothing can hinder Yahuwah from saving by many or by few." And his armor bearer said to him, "Do all that is in your heart. Do as you wish. Behold, I am with you, heart and soul." So here we go. They agreed. Can two walk together except they agreed to me? They became fixed. They literally joined together. They agreed. He said, "My heart and soul." Right? That's Lave and Nefesh, right? So that's both. Then Jonathan said, "Behold, we will cross over to the men, and we will show ourselves to them. And if they say to us, 'Wait until we come to you,' then we will stand still in our place, and we will not go up to them. But if they say, 'Come to us,' then we will go up, for Yahuwah has given them into our hand. And this shall be the sign to us." So both of them showed themselves to the garrison of the Philistines, and the Philistines said to them, "Look, a breed are coming out of their holes." Of the holes. You know, in your holes, you hiding. They done came out of their holes. I know. You done came out your hole. I know. Come out from where you hide from, you little A-breed people. You little hole, you in your holes. Where they have hidden themselves. You say, where you hide yourself at? You hiding yourself in them caves. You ain't no man. Verse 12, and the men of the garrison hailed Jonathan and his armor bearer and said, "Come up to us, and we will show you a thing." He said, "We're going to show you. Come on over here." You know, they talking that noise. We'll show you what's really going on. And Jonathan said to his armor bearer, "Come up after me, for Yahuwah has given them into the hand of Yasharal." Then Jonathan climbed up on his hands and his feet, and his armor bearer after him. And they fell before Jonathan and his armor bearer and killed them after him. He did all that. He went on his arms. He fell on, He bare him and fell before Jonathan, and his armor bearer killed them after him. And that first strike, which Jonathan and his armor bearer made, killed about 20 men within as if it were mere half a furrow's length in an acre of land. He's like, man, he killed. You see how skilled he was? He was running on his hands and his feet like a lion. I mean, his arm was strong, his leg was strong. He was running like an animal. On his hands and his feet. Lion-like man. Like an animal. And he slew them all in 1 acre of land. He said, man, I killed all of them, 20 men. Because he's like beast mode. You know how they say? Beast mode, right? He did beast mode on them. And he killed 20 men within as mere of a furrow of a length of an acre of land. And there was panic in the camp and in the field and among all the people. See, this is the thing that Shaul took credit for. And the garrison and even the raiders trembled, and the earth quaked. And it became a very great panic. That's why he said, you're going to be visited by Yahuwah. What? With earthquake. So who you think did that? Who won the battle? Who won the battle? Was it Saul? Shaul? Was it Saul? Was it Saul's battle? Who won? No, Yahuwah won the battle because you were visited by Yahuwah with an earthquake. Who do you think that earthquake was? He said, why he had 2 people there? Because he had to agree. They had to agree together. And once they agreed, Yahuwah won the battle. And guess what? And the watchmen of Saul and Gibeah of Benjamin looked, and behold, the multitude was disappearing here and there. And then Saul said to the people who were with him, count and see who has gone from us. Hold up, man. What's going on? Who left? And when they had counted, behold, Jonathan and his armor bearer were not there. You know how it is. And Saul said to Ahijah, bring the ark of Elohim here. For the ark of Elohim went at that time with the people of Yasharal, right? They said they thought it didn't. It did. But it's something different about it, right? Because amazingly, they won the battle without the ark. He said, man, bring that ark here. Right? Because they trying to figure out how in the world this happened. Now, while Saul was talking to the priest, the tumult and the camp of the Philistines increased more and more. So Saul said to the Kohanim, withdraw your hand. Then Saul and all the people who were with him railed and went into the battle. They rallied and went into the battle. And behold, every Philistine sword was against his fellow, and there was a very great confusion. Now the Abri who had been with the Philistines before that time, and who had gone up with them into the camp, even they also turned to be with the Yasharal, who were with Saul and Jonathan. Right? Because you had some people in Yasharal with King of Babylon was with the Philistines. He said, man, they even started turning after because of what his son did. He said they did. And guess what it says? Verse 21. Now the Abri who had been with the Philistines before that time, and who had gone up with them into the camp, even they also turned with the Yasharali, who were with Saul and Jonathan. Likewise, when all the men of Yasharal who had hidden themselves in the hill country of Ephraim heard the Philistines were fleeing, they too followed after them into the battle. So Yahuwah saved Yasharal, huh? I thought it was Saul. Yahuwah did. So Yahuwah saved Yasharal that day, and the battle passed beyond Beth-Haven. Right, so this is verse 24. And the men of Yasharal have been pressed hard that day. So Shaul laid an oath on the people, saying, cursed be the man who eats food until it is evening, and I am avenged on my enemies. So none of the people had tasted food. Right? So the people didn't taste the food. They all agree with him, right? So they had to listen to him and they agreed with what he said. But let's see what happened. Now when all the people came to the forest, behold, there was honey on the ground. And when the people entered the forest, behold, the honey was dropping, but no one put his hand to his mouth, for the people feared the oath. But Jonathan had not heard his father's charge the people with the oath. He said, I ain't never heard that. So he put out his tip of his staff that was in his hand and dipped it in honey comb and put it in his hand of his mouth. And his eyes became bright. He said, became bright. His iron became bright. Then one of the people said, your father strictly charged the people with an oath. He said, your father did, saying, cursed be the man who eats food this day. And amazing when they accused Yahushua, what did he do? And he said he answered them not a word. It was like he didn't even hear him or hear what they said. But guess what? And the people were faint. Verse 29. Then Jonathan said, my father has troubled the land. See how my eyes have become bright because I tasted a little of this honey. How much better if the people had eaten freely today of the spoil of their enemies that they found. For now the defeat among the Philistines has not been great. Because everybody ain't eating nothing. Because if you just did that, you wouldn't be hungry. They struck down the Philistines that day at Michmash and Aydah. And the people were very faint. They still were faint. Everybody was fasting. Nobody was eating anything. The people pounced on the spoil and took the sheep and the oxen and the calves and slaughtered them on the ground. And the people ate them with the blood. Right? So that's what happens when you give vows and you put all these things on people. And then next thing you know, they start transgressing the bar. Then they told Shaul, behold, the people are sinning against Yahuwah by eating the blood, and he said, you have dealt treacherously. You know what the cup of treacherous, ma'al, you went against Yahuwah now, and you transgressed the covenant. Ma'al, right? It says, roll a great stone to me here. He said, roll a big old stone. And Saul said, disperse yourselves among the people and say to them, let every man bring in his ox and his sheep and slaughter them here and eat. And do not sin against Yahuwah by eating with the blood. So every one of the people brought with it an ox that night, and they slaughtered them there. And Shaul built an altar to Yahuwah. It was the first altar that he built to Yahuwah. He said that was the first one he ever did. Because before, he wasn't doing no animal sacrifices for sin. He wasn't doing no animal sacrifices for sin. That's why he said when he came out of Mizraim, he said, the day I brought you out of Mizraim, I never commanded you to do sacrifice for sin. The only thing I told you to do was obey my voice. That's all I asked you to do. Then Saul said, let us go down after the Philistines by night and plunder them until the morning light. And let us not leave a man of them. And they said, do whatever seems good for you, to you. Who said that? The people said that. Do whatever seems good to you. But the Kohanim said, let us draw near to Elohim here. See, Shaul ain't thinking about all them people just transgressed though. He ain't thinking about that. And Saul inquired of Elohim, shall I go down after the Philistines? Will you give them into the hand of Yasharal? But he did not answer him that day. See? That's what happens. See, you ain't thinking about that. And Shaul said, come here, all you leaders of the people, and know and see how this sin has arisen today. That's the reason why he answered me, right? For as Yahuwah lives, who saves Yasharal, though it be in Jonathan my son, he shall surely die. Now he want to kill his son. The only thing he ain't thinking about, you didn't think about that oath you made. You said don't eat no honey. Then Jonathan was like, y'all just ate from the spoil. We would have never been in this situation. Then they start eating the blood and they start transgressing. Then you try to tell them to kill the animals and bring it and offer sacrifice. This is the only altar you built. Then you want to go up and try to fight a war with everybody transgressing. And then you want to pray. And then you want to wonder why Yahuwah ain't saying nothing. And now you want to put it on your son. And that's what people do with Yahushua Mashiach. All your mistakes and all the things you did, your rash oaths and your rash vows that you made, even the Ruach Hinah, even the adultery that people commit. He said, you throw it all in the son. That's what happens. He said, my son shall surely die. See what happens? I'm going to kill my son. Now you see why Yahuwah killed his son. For all he love what he gave his only son. He had to kill his son. But guess what happens? But there was not a man among the people who answered him. He said, man, we don't agree with nothing you say. Now you see why. We just read in Dabrei Hayamim 13:4. And all the Qahalath, the assembly, agreed to do so, for this thing was right in the eyes of all the people. See, but what you saw here, right here, it wasn't right in all the people's eyes. And then he'll find himself wrestling within himself. Like, why everybody not agreeing with me no more? Why everybody talking about what I do now? And then now it becomes something else. But there was not a man who among them who answered him. Then he said to all Yasharal, you shall be on one side, and I and Jonathan and my son will be on the other side. Now he separated him from his son from you people. And all the people said to Saul, Shaul, do what seems good to you. Right? So, whatever you gonna do, we ain't agreeing with what you're doing. That's the whole point. See, if it ain't good in sight of all the people, and it's not right in the sight of all the people, I assure you, you're gonna be convicted of what you're doing. Do what seems good to you. Therefore Shaul said, O Yahuwah, Elohim Yasharal, why have you not answered your servant this day? See, this is what happens when Yahuwah don't answer you. You start making rash decisions and start doing other stuff. And you start adding more stuff to what you're doing. If this guilt is me or in Jonathan, my son, O Yahuwah, Elohim Yasharal, give Urim, or light. Urim. Guidance by light. Urim. That's what it means. That's what light is, Orim. And if this guilt is in your people, Yasharal gives the Thummim, right? So he had the Urim and the Thummim, right? He had both of them. And Jonathan and Saul were taken, but the people escaped. He said, ain't my fault. But guess what? Then Saul said, cast the lot between me and my son Jonathan. Now you see why they cast lots for Yahushua Mashiach. That's why they did it. And Jonathan was taken. Now you see why Yahushua was taken to be crucified. Because Saul couldn't be crucified. He couldn't die. You see his behavior, you couldn't die. Yahushua was the only one that could die. And then Saul said to Jonathan, tell me what you have done. And Jonathan told him, and I tasted a little honey with the tip of my staff that was in my hand. Here I am. I will die. Now you see why Yahushua said, whom do you seek? It is I. Now you see why Yahushua said that. Yahushua said that. Whom do you seek? Yahushua. I am he. I will die. And Saul said, Elohim do so to me, and the more also, you shall surely die, Jonathan. Then the people said to Saul, shall Jonathan die? Because they didn't agree with him. Who has worked this great salvation in Yasharal? See, he had to die. For far from it, see, they didn't agree. First Chronicles, Darim Hayamin 13, 1 through 13 and 4. All the assembly, Qahalath, agreed to do so. For this thing was right in all the people's eyes. All in the eyes of all the people. See, when things ain't right in all eyes of all the people, they gonna say something back to you. People say, ain't nobody gonna say nothing to me. Do you know who I am? King Kong has nothing on me. Right? You can't say nothing to me. Right? That's what happens. How many guns I got? Right? That's what happens. That's what they say. They think King Kong, but they don't even know the King Kong Koof, right? You mean Koof, 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 Su. Zaire. They don't even know what that means. Su, Koof, 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 Zaire. Because that means line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. King Kong ain't got nothing on me. Don't even know that. That's why he said, why they use that? Verse 44, verse 46, 45. Then the people said to Saul, Shaul, shall Jonathan die, who has worked this great salvation in Yasharal? Far from it. As Yahuwah lives, there shall not be one hair of his head fall to the ground. And you see why you know why his hair ain't gonna fall to the ground? We just read it in Amos chapter 8. He said, man, I'm going to call your feast in the morning. I'm going to put sackcloth and ashes. I'm going to put baldness on your head. He said, not one of his hair going to fall to the ground. He ain't finna be bald-headed. Not today. He ain't finna pull out his hair. For he has worked with Elohim this day. Man, he worked with Elohim. He ain't got a ruach of hatred. You know, work together with Satan. Ruach of hatred work together with Satan. But you know, he said, you know, the ruach of love work together with Yahuwah to the salvation of men and women. Ahava. So the people ransomed Jonathan so that he did not die. And I see why Yahushua was trying to convince the people that he was a Sadiq man. He was working with Elohim Yahuwah. Because he was telling the people, me and my father are one. Whatsoever the Father do, the Son does likewise. He was trying to convince them, the people, because the people were going to save his life. But for some reason, the other people agreed to take Barabbas instead of Yahushua Mashiach. Because the elders and the chief priests and the scribes convinced them. And they agreed with him. And they shouldn't agree with him. You shouldn't agree with the man. You shouldn't agree with the head man. You shouldn't agree with him, but you did. So therefore, you are partakers in their evil deeds. You partaker. That's why Shaul said, though I, or we, or any other Malachi, do teach and do anything other truth, Let that man be cursed. And I see why he said that. And they just did that right here. And guess what? And then Shaul went up from pursuing the Philistines, and the Philistines went to their own place. And when Shaul had taken the kingship over Yasharal, he fought against all his enemies on every side, against Moab, against the Ammonites, against Edom, and against the Malachim, the kings of Zoar, and against the Philistines. Wherever he turned, he routed them. And he did valiantly and struck the Amalekites, and delivered Yasharal out of the hands of those who plundered them. Right? And he went on forwardly, right? But there's a lot of things that go along with that, but I'm not going to go there. This is Darim Hayamim, chapter 13, 1 through 4. And all the assembly, Qahalath, this First Chronicles 13, 1 through 4. We're going to verse 4. And all the assembly, Qahalath, assembled to do so. For the thing was right in the eyes of all the people, right? He said, why? Because it was all right in the sight of all the people, right? Look at the Abri, it is U, Ye'amar, U, Kal, Hakulal, La Etza'it, come. Right? And you got Hadabar, Bay, it says called Ha'im, right? In the sight of all the people. And it was right in the sight of all the people. Because Ha'im is people, right? And Hadabar, right? That word was right in the sight of all the people. Right, because that word for, because the whole point of that word for agreed in that word versus atzah. It means it's atzah. It means agreed. It says, and all the assembly agreed to do. Right, that word is atzah. It means to fashion, to accomplish it, to observe, to celebrate. It means also to be used to be observed, or do or make. That's what that word means, atzah, and accomplish. But that word, that first time you see that saw was Bereshit 1:26. Then Elohim said, let us make Adam man in our own image. Let us etzah Adam. That's what that word for let us make. Etzah. That same word. In our own likeness. There's a reason why he said that. And we're not going to get into it, because the next part, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the Shamayim, and over all the livestock, and over all the earth, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. There's a reason why. He said, man, etzah. He said, man, let's accomplish this. He said, man, let's go get the ark, our room. Matter of fact, let's go get the couple roll with the Aron with the Aydah. Let's get the testimony. Let's get all that stuff and bring it back. Because he said, man, nobody been inquiring of this thing, right, like that, right? But this is the whole point. Right, this is Zechariah 8, 14 through 18. 14 through 19. Zechariah 8, 14 through 19. For thus says Yahuwah of hosts, as I purposed to bring disaster to you when your fathers provoked me to wrath and did not relent, says Yahuwah of hosts. So again, I purpose in these days to bring good to Jerusalem and to the house of Yehudah. Fear not. These are the things that you shall do. Speak the truth to one another. Render in your gates judgments that are true and make peace. How many gates you will got? 12 gates. You got 12 gates at the four corners. You got 12 gates. Do not devise evil in your hearts against one another, and love no false oath. He said, don't do it. For all these things I hate, declares Yahuwah. He said, I hate you. And the word of Yahuwah of hosts came to me, saying, thus says Yahuwah of hosts, the fast of the 4th month. What month this is? And the fast of the 5th month. And why? Because there ain't no muads during this time. You can't just be sitting around not doing anything and understanding why you got to do these things. At least, I can't even do it one time. He's like, man, you're going to have to do something. And the fast of the 7th and the fast of the 10th shall be to the house of Yehuda seasons of joy and gladness and cheerful feasts. Therefore, love Amath, that's truth, and peace. See, the reason why he says to do this in the 4th month and the 5th month, so it can keep your mind on doing something good, right? This is Yeshayahu chapter 58. Yeshayahu chapter 58 in verse 10. Actually, going Yeshayahu chapter 58 in verse 6. Yeshayahu 58 and 6. Yeshayahu chapter 58 verse 6. Is this not a fast that I chose, to loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the straps of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread, your lakan, with the hungry, and to bring the homeless, the poor, into your house? When you see the naked, to cover him? And not to hide yourself from your own flesh? Then your light shall break forth like the dawn. See, amazingly, we just passed the summer solstice. And what does the sun do during this time? It's hot. It's bright like the sun, right? It's bright like the dawn, right? You know, when the dawn come up around this time, it's hot. Then shall your light break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up speedily. So your healing can spring forth speedily. So how you get healed? Your Rafa. We just read the fast of the 4th month and the fast of the 5th month. He's just trying to show you how to stay healed, because a lot of people don't know how to stay light. So where was Jonathan walking at? And the honey appeared. And then he ate something, and his light, he was bright eyed. His eye became bright, but he could see. He like, after he drank that honey, he's like, man, if they would have just ate from this, if they would have just took the spoil, man, this would have never happened. Because his eyes became open. He was able to discern between good and evil. But guess what? Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up speedily. Your righteousness shall go before you. It's going to go before you, which means you're going to be doing your good deeds, but then in the future, it's already gone before you to do good for you in the future. It's like being in another world. Like you're doing your good right now, presently, and then in the future, it's like, man, I got so much ahead of you that's so good for you, and it's going to be so righteous, so you ain't even going to know what to even think about everything that's going to happen to you in the future. But you're doing it now, but in the future, it's going to be, you're going to see it. That's why I say, I'm Yahuwah. I am the first, the last, the beginning, and the end. Past, present, and future. And I do not change. Guess what it says? The kabod of Yahuwah shall be your rear guard, right? And he said, man, he gonna get my back. Then you shall call, and Yahuwah will answer. Now you see why Saul didn't get no answer. He's like, Saul, show. You ain't getting no answer from me. You gonna call and he gonna answer you. What happened? You shall cry, and he will say, here I am. My Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? But not even knowing when Yahushua cried, that was Yahuwah saying, here I am. You just ain't know him. Because Yahuwah was in the Son, reconciling the worlds himself. Yahuwah was like, my Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? Yahuwah was like, here I am. The only way you're going to know it was Yahuwah, you had to know why he did all of that stuff. It is Yahuwah. He came into his own didn't even receive him. All that did receive him, he gave him power to become the sons of Elohim. Then you shall call, and Yahuwah will answer, and you shall cry, and he will say, here I am. If you take away the yoke from your midst, the pointing of the finger, pointing the finger at you now. You know what the man did to the woman? You know what Saul did to Jonathan? It's your fault. You did it. Start pointing the finger. Guess what happens? And speak, and it says, if you take away the yoke from your midst, the pointing of the finger and speaking wickedness. You know what wickedness is? To go against what Yahuwah said. You know what wickedness is? Evil joking. You know what wickedness is? Slander, gossip, lying, swindling, extortion. That's evil. Wickedness. Death and life in the power of the tongue. There's a lot of stuff people do. Fornication, adultery. He said, stop speaking wickedness. If you pour yourself out for the hungry and satisfy the desires of the afflicted, the people that are afflicted, what did Jonathan do? And guess what? Then shall your light rise in the dark. He said, man, Jonathan working with Yahuwah this day. But you working with Yahuwah, man. What you talking about? And your gloom shall be as the noonday. He said, man, you're going to be just like the sun. You're going to be just like the noonday. Now you see why he darkened from the 6th to the 9th hour. Because Yahusha's light shined like the noonday. Because that's all he did. All his works were in the future. Like he was doing all those good works, and then in the future, he said, man, I'm going to darken the sun in the 6th and 9th hour. And matter of fact, I'm going to show you that your light shines just like the noonday, but it ain't the sun that was created on the 4th day. It was the light, the orb that was from the beginning. He said, bring it back to how it was before the earth even was. Before the earth even got light inside. He said, I was there right beside him. Like a master workman. I will master this thing. Yahushua mastered it, and you don't even know it. And Yahuwah will guide you continually and satisfy your desire in scorched places. Or you mean there's going to be a famine in the land. Not of bread and of water, but hearing of the bar. But he said, I'm going to satisfy your desire in the scorched places. And then what happened? He said, I'm going to satisfy your desire in the scorched places when you ain't got no water. You ain't got no food, man. Ain't no food in here. But he said, for some reason, I'm satisfied in the midst of all this evil that's happening when Yahushua getting taken. And I'm seeing Yahushua all in there. And all of the understanding of who he is while evil happening to other people. And they took him into a desert in Oregon. He said, I'm going to satisfy your desire in scorched places and make your bones strong. He said, I'm going to make your bones strong in scorched places in heat. And guess what? And you shall be like a watered garden. You know when they went to the king's garden, when they got taken out of Babylon? He said, man, they went across to the king's garden. Right across the brook Kudron to the garden right there. To a well-watered garden. And what? Like a spring of water whose waters do not fail. He's like, man, these waters ain't never going away. That's why Yahushua said, he that believes on me, as the scripture said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. You ain't never going to lose no water in your scorched places. It's going to be famine all around you. People ain't seem like, man, ain't got no water, I got water. I got a fountain too. It ain't going to fail either. And guess what? And your ancient ruins shall be rebuilt. He said, that's the building I'm talking about. And guess what? And you shall raise up the foundation of many generations. Huh? He said, you're going to raise up the foundation for what? For many generations. And you shall be called the repairer of the breach. And there was a breach in the wall they put with Babal. They put a breach in the wall and they came in and they sieged Jerusalem. He said, man, you are called the repairer of the breach. Man, it was a big old huge breach. You didn't see that? It was huge. The restorer of streets to dwell in. if you turn back your foot from the Shabbat, from doing your own pleasure on my Qahalath day, and call the Shabbat a delight, and the Qahalath day of Yahuwah honorable, if you honor it, not doing your own ways, not seeking your own pleasure, nor talking idly. Now you see why he told you to put wickedness out of your tongue. He said, man, you know that you can still, on Shabbat, you ain't got to be putting all this food in your mouth either. Nor you ain't got to talk idly and say stuff out of your mouth. Then you shall take delight in Yahuwah, and he will make you ride upon the heights of the earth. Man, he'll make you like a netzar, like an eagle. And I will feed you with the heritage of Yaakov, your father. He's like, you ever seen the eagle? He's like, man, look at him. He said, I'm going to satisfy your hunger in scorched places. He said, all I need you to do is go higher on the Shabbat. It's water up there. As rain and snow come down from Shammai, he said, the water ain't come down yet. I know, it's in the cloud. He said, get up there. You'll find out. They water all up there. He said, man, I'm going to satisfy your thirst and your hunger right there in the clouds. And you're going to, guess what? I'm going to make you ride upon the heights of the earth. You way up there. Where you at? And I will feed you with the heritage of Yaakov, your father. He said, I'm going to feed you with the heritage of Yaakov, your father. For the mouth of Yahuwah has spoken. That's what happens. He said, man, why are you happy in the midst of famine? Why are you joyful in the midst of famine? This is Zechariah 8:19. Thus says Yahuwah of hosts, the fast of the 4th month and the fast of the 5th month, Kamishi, and Raby'ay, the fast of the 7th month, or Shabai, and the fast of the 10th month, Ishar, shall be to the house of Yehuda seasons of joy. Know how many fasts? 4 of them. He's like, why have 4 fasts? Because you need the 4. He's like, why you got 4 faces? Because you need the 4. 4 living creatures, because you need the 4. Why you got 4 transition times and 4 seasons? Spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Why do you think they have all that? Why do you have 4 transition times? Why do you have to add 4 to 364 day cycle? Because it's all a part of it. He said, why you gotta do all that? Be doers of the word, not hearers, only deceiving your own self. You can be deceived. Because Satan trying to deceive you. Remember, this man know all our stuff. That man, they don't know 360 degrees. Yeah, people know 360 degrees. Osiris know it. Isis know it. Hathor, Zeus, Odin. Every last one of them know it. They all know it. Why you didn't use it? Electricity. Who was that? Zeus. Right? You get that electric. Right? The lightning bolt. Why you think they use that stuff? You be like, what is this electric stuff that's coming out? You have no idea, because it's Odin. They all part of it. You say, what? It's all a part of this whole thing. That's their God. You just don't know it, though. Zeus was black. He was brown. Same God. No different. I don't want to be that Elohim. I saw Adam, Damus Salim. That's what I want to be. He made Adam in his image and likeness. He made Yahushua Mashiach in his image and likeness. The second Adam, a speaking Ruach. See, Adam natural man, me. I'm Adam natural man. But then on the inward man, if I ain't got the speaking Ruach, you're not a life-giving Ruach. You're not Yahushua Mashiach. Because Yahushua was Adam in the flesh. But he had a speaking Ruach to give life to you by speaking. He was the second Adam, but he didn't operate according to the flesh. That's why he didn't obey it. The inward man actually allowed him to be the speaking Ruach, the second Adam. The outer man was perishing. The inward man was being renewed by the Ruach. And that allowed him to speak life, or Kaya, into us by speaking. That's the second Adam. Because Yahuwah still saw Adam now. So people be like, man, Adam is gone. Man. Forget about Adam. Oh, no. That second Adam is the speaking Ruach, the one who speaks on the inside. And that talks. That says something. And that being is the kind individual, right? This is Psalms 32, 6-9. Therefore, let everyone who is conceived kind offer prayer to you at the time when you may be found. So Yahuwah don't want to hear your mouth if you ain't kind. If you ain't got no kindness in your heart, Yahuwah don't want to hear nothing you have to say. That's why he says, when you pray, forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. You got to be a kind individual to say that. I assure you. Forgive somebody? You see how much Yahushua had to go through to say, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Yahushua had to take him down. Well, you had to see how humble he had to be. But he had to do that at the end. You see how hard that is? You'd be like, man, that's easy. No, it ain't. You see how he had to beat Yahushua down and beat him down and strike him down and all that stuff and beat his brains in, blindfold him, shame him, rip off his clothes in front of people, do all this stuff just for him to say, to pray and say, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. You see all the stuff he had to do to him? And he'd be like, it's easy. He had to beat Yahushua down all the way to nothing in order to get him to forgive people. So what do you think? You say, Barak is the man whom Yahuwah remembers with the whip. Because that's the only way you're going to forgive people. I'm going to forgive somebody for all the stuff they did. Adultery, fornication, lying, swindling, extortion, slander, gossip to thousands of people, hundreds of millions, right? And they all know about my business and all this stuff. Slander of a city. You telling me, and worse than death. You telling me, no, it's not going to be an easy task. Yahuwah going to have to beat you down. He's going to have to strike you. He said, don't despise Yahuwah's discipline. He's going to beat you. That's the only way it's going to happen. I forgive all the time. I said, no, you didn't. If he ain't beat you down and do that, you ain't forgiving nobody. If you won't take you nothing, you ain't gonna forgive nobody. I promise you. You're not forgiving nobody. You be like, man, I don't want to go through that again. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Now you see why Yahushua ain't gonna do that again. You be like, man, why he ain't gonna do that again? Man, you see what I had to go through to forgive you? You gonna crucify Yahushua, bring him to an open shame again? You like, that was hard. So when somebody forgive you, just understand, Yahuwah done took them through a whole bunch of stuff in life. And their forgiveness, I assure you, is the most genuine thing you'll probably hear in your life. I promise you, because he would be like, yeah, why he forgave me for all that? You just don't understand what I've been through and what Yahuwah done took me through. So that's what you need to understand. Therefore, let everyone who is conceived offer prayer at the time when you may be found. Surely, in the rush of great waters, they shall not reach him. You are a hiding place for me and preserve me from trouble. You surround me with shouts of deliverance, Selah. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my eye upon you, my iron. Be not like the horse and the mule without understanding, which must be curbed with bits and bridle to stay near you, right? So that word for godly is conceived. Faithful, kind, godly, Qhdsh one. Faithful ones, kind, merciful ones. You see, Yahuwah don't want to hear nothing you got to say if you ain't merciful and kind. And you ain't faithful like him. He don't want nothing to do with you. Because he's going to take you through stuff to get you to that point. Ephesians 4:29-32. Let your corrupt talk come out of your mouth. See, this is the whole point. Stop speaking any wickedness. We read it in Yeshayahu 58. But only such as good for the building up. Now, he said, then your places, then we just read, your waste place is going to be rebuilt again. As fits occasion in the seasons of joy, right? This is that it may give cause to those who hear. See, Yahuwah don't be wanting people to hear your mouth. And do not grieve the Qhdsh Ruach of Yahuwah, by whom you are sealed to the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you with all malice. So you got to put all this stuff away, if you can. You say you might really need to walk across the brook Qahalath, Qahalath a couple times. Because that's where Yahushua always went to go pray. And he went to go teach there. But then he had to walk across brook Qahalath every single time. He had to go across there. And by the way of there. Y'all got anything y'all need to throw in the brook Qahalath before you hear this? Because he was teaching in that garden. So you got anything you throw in the Qahalath before I start bringing out this bitter cup on you? Because if you don't, something's going to happen to you. something's going to happen to you. But if you get everything in that brook, Nakalakudrun, in dark waters, these are the last dark waters. If you get it in there, then guess what happens? Nothing going to happen to you when you drink this bitter water. It's just going to be like, man, how you drink that? He going to say the best for last, though. Anyway, he told his mother at the wedding, man, you gave the best wine, say the best wine for the last. He's like, yeah, I'm going to say that for the last thing. Right now, bitter cup. Drink that. Let all bitterness and wrath and clamor and slander be put away from you with all malice. Be kind one to another. I told you Yahuwah don't want to hear nothing you got to say if you ain't kind. This man don't want to hear nothing you got to say. You pull all you want. Tender-hearted. If you ain't, I'm telling you, if you ain't got this, he don't want to hear nothing. He's trying to build things. He ain't trying to. Forgiving one another. See, I told you. He going to have to take you through stuff. So if somebody forgive you, I promise you, it ain't going to be no immediate, I forgive you, brother, sister. It's not going to be that quick. Don't get it twisted. Look what Yahushua had to do to get to that point. Say, I forgive you. So please don't be thinking it's going to be that fast. As Yahuwah in Yahushua Mashiach forgave you. How is he going to do it? He's like, man, look at here. Hebrews chapter 12, 13 through 15. Therefore, lift your drooping hands and strengthen your weak knees, and make straight paths for your feet, so that what is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather healed. Now you see your healing gonna spring forward. We read it in Yeshayahu 58. But guess what? Strive for peace with everyone. And he say, love truth and amath. Love amath and shalom. Did we read that? Love, peace, and shalom. And for the Qahalath or Chdsh, without which no one will see Yahuwah. See, that's what Yahuwah wants in his sight. He don't want everything there. See that to it that no one fails to obtain the kind of Yahuwah, and that no root of bitterness spring up and cause trouble. By it, many become defiled. Because if you don't do these things, I assure you there's a lot of bitterness going on. It's hidden though. You just don't know it. And it's going to spring up one day. Matter of fact, around this time, you know, all this fruits bear right now, everything, the heat of the sun is out. And guess what? Everything going to bolt. You know, things start bolting. And amazing when certain plants bolt, like cilantro or spinach, they bolt and they bolt out seeds on the top of it. Because the heat of the sun makes it bolt rapidly, and then it has seeds that, and you can replant them next year. So if you got something evil inside, it's going to bolt up and it's going to have seeds. And then that handful of seeds you're going to have is your bitterness. And then you know what you're going to do with that seed? Here go one for you, one for you, one for you. You're going to be spreading them seeds. And them seeds going to spring up next year. So don't sow no bitter seeds. Don't sow no hatred, jealousy. Don't sow them seeds that spring up. You sow those seeds, they're going to spring up next year. They're going to bolt up again, and they're going to be in more people. That's just from nature. If you don't want the 4 seasons, right? If you don't want the 4 seasons, 364, then you just go back, go worship another god. Right? The many gods, right? When you start adding 4 gates, then it becomes okay. It's a little different, right? But at the same time, James chapter 3. 13 through 14. Who is wise and understanding among you? By your good conduct, let him show his works in meekness and of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambitions in your heart, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambitions exist, there will be disorder in every vile practice. But Hakmah from above is first pure, peaceful, shalom, gentle, Aydah, open to reason. Can 2 walk together except they agree to meet? Ya'ad, full of mercy, that those who are kind offer prayer to Yahuwah at the time he may be found. Good fruits, ChayParach. Right? Impartial and sincere. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in shalom. Now you see why it says love among peace and truth. It's sown in righteousness by those who make shalom. So you gotta make it just like you make unleavened bread. You gotta do it quickly too. Matter of fact, you gotta come to terms with your accuser quickly. You know how I said, do it in haste, eat it in haste. It is Yahuwah's Passat, right? You know how they say that? But at the same time, right, this is Talim, Psalms 37, 7-11. Be still before Yahuwah and wait patiently for him. Fret not yourself over the one who prospers in the way, over the man who carries out evil devices. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Now you see why. There's a lot of things you gotta forsake. There's a lot of things you gotta give up. Qahalath not yourself, it tends only to evil. It only waters evil. Ra. That's all it does. For evildoers shall be cut off, but those who wait for Yahuwah shall inherit the Aydah. So you see, that's the whole point. In just a little while, the wicked will be no more. Though you look carefully at his place, he will not be there, but the Anu, the meek, shall inherit the Aydah and delight themselves in the abundance of shalom, right? Why? Because everybody around them are going to have that. They're going to delight in truth and shalom. And then they're going to be humble and Anu, meek. Then they're going to be peaceful, open to reason. Not prideful and be like, yeah. Right? You'd be like, King Kong ain't got nothing on me, right? You're going to be like that guy. No. So that word for fret is kara. It means to be hot. Isn't that what it's hot right now? And everybody want to show off their wealth today, right now. These 3 months, and no break, no feast. Ooh, they want to show off everything they got. I mean, the plants are sprouting, the vineyard. Like you go to the wine vineyards right now, you go eat the wine, but the whole thing green. Everybody got all their stuff showing it off. Cars washed, right? Trying to make that thing look good. Armor all, right? Making that thing look good. Got their clothes on, they good clothes. They in the sun. Everybody trying to show their stuff off. You know what that's gonna do to you? Ruach Kinah. Qahalath. It's gonna make you, I'm telling you. That's why he said the fast in the 5th month and the fast in the 6th month. Is it not a fast that I chose? That you may give bread to the hungry and those who are in need? To bring the homeless into your home? To break every yoke? Is this not a fast that I chose? Fret not yourself. He says that means burn hot, angry. To be angry, to be incensed, to heat oneself, vexation, to glow, to grow warm. It ain't gonna be like bright eyes like Jonathan, right? It's gonna be something else. Angry, to blaze up. You know what the sun do around this time? That thing blaze up, to be in jealousy. Ooh, displeased, to burn. Remember he said in Yeshayah 58, he said, I'm going to satisfy you in the scorched places. And when people around you doing this, he said, I'm going to satisfy you with living water. Now you see why you need it. You're going to be satisfied with living water. Yahushua Mashiach. Out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. It's going to satisfy you in that time when you're around things like this. And it's going to put out all those fires that people have. And that you have on the inside. Once they come back to your mind, it's going to put out them fires. It means to grieve. That's why you say grieve not the Ruach Qahalath, right? So don't get that mind, right? You're going to mess around. You're going to grieve the Ruach. Incense, right? Be raw. You're going to grieve the Ruach. Then the Ark of the Covenant on the inside going to get activated. That's not going to be good for your body. You know how people say it? But the meek, that word for meek is Anu. Afflicted, humble, meek. Now you see why we got fast of the 5th month, fast of the 4th month, fast of the 5th month. People say, why you do that? Needy, poor, humble, lowly, meek, afflicted. You got to remind yourself. That's what it's about. He said, why he got all that? Because he's trying to remind you. Meek, poor. because this is the whole point. Now, this is Nazarene, Exodus, Shalakim, how demons get power over men, women, and children. Therefore, demons, as we have just said, when once they have been able by means of opportunities afforded them to convey themselves through base and evil actions into the bodies of men, women, and children, they remain in them a long time through their own negligence, because they don't seek after what is profitable for their inner beings. So you can get them things out of you. You just got to seek after what is profitable for your inner being. Now, if you don't, chronic. They necessity compel them for their future to fulfill the desires of the demons that dwell in them. That's how people get bound with issues of blood for so long. That's how people get disability things for so long. He said, why? Because you ain't seeking after what's profitable for your inner being. That's the whole point. And it says, but what is worst of all, the end of the age, when the demons are co-signed the ageless fire, the necessity, the Ruach also that obeyed him, will with him be tortured in ageless fires. What? Ageless fires. And it says, together with his body it has polluted. That's the whole point. Right? It's Aleph Yukanan 1 and 2, 24 to 28. Let what you heard from the beginning abide in you. And what you heard from the beginning abides in you. You too will abide in the Son, the life of the house, and the Father, the strength of the house. And this is the promise he has made to us, eternal life. I write these things about those who are trying to deceive you. But the anointing you received of him abides in you. You have no need that anyone should teach you. But the anointing that he teaches you about everything and is true and is no lie, just as it is taught you, abide in him. And now, little children, abide in him, so that when he appears, you may have confidence and not shrink from him in shame at his coming. Right? Because if you see Aydah, he said the people agreed. And they said, we're going to accomplish Aydah this. But these are all a part of it. Sirach 3, 17 through 23. My son and daughter, go on thy business in Aydah. So shalt thou be beloved of him that is approved. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself. So shalt thou find favor before Yahuwah. That's why you had to fast in the 4th month and the 5th month. Because you great now. You the light of the world. He said your light, your dawn gonna shine. You're gonna spring up like the noonday, right? So you saying you want to be like the noon sun when it's at its highest point? We just passed the summer solstice yesterday, but you see all these things that's happened. Many are in high places of renown, but mysteries revealed unto the meek. Aydah, right? He say mysteries. Aydah. Who was that mystery revealed to? Yakaziel in the 4th month, right? As a matter of fact, he was by the canal too. He was like, and the hand of Yahuwah was upon me, and the rivers and the shamayim were open with rain and snow, right? Because that's what happens. Out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. And guess what happens after that? Right, so 19. Many are in high places of renown, but mysteries revealed unto the Aydah, the meek. For the power of Yahuwah is great and honor with the lowly. Seek not out things that are too hard for thee, neither search for things that are above thy strength. For what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence. For it is not needful for thee to see with thine eyes that are in secret. Be not curious in unnecessary matters, for more things are showed unto thee than men, women, and children understand. Right, so this is Essene. Let me finish with this. This is Essene. This is the Essene of Essene. This is the Essene. Communions. Actually go to, this is page 269. Let's go here. This is page 269. It says the gift of life and a humble grasp. But it says, it was in the month Tibat when the earth was covered with shoots of young grass. After the rains, this is page 269. After the rains and the coverings of emerald green was tender. At the fine, it says, as the fine down of a baby chick. And it was a bright, sun-filled morning that Yahushua gathered the new brothers of the elect round about him, that they might hear with the ears and understand with their hearts the teachings of their fathers, even as it was taught to Hanuk, Enoch of old. Right, so it was taught to Hanuk, Enoch of old. And Yahushua sat beneath the gnarled and ancient tree, holding in his hands a small earthen pot. Why? What is that? In the gun, right across the brook Kuchum, Nakala Kudrum, right? And in the pot was growing tender grass of wheat. He said, man, you are at a pot. The most perfect among the seed-bearing herbs, right? He said the most perfect. And the tender grass within the pot was radiant with light, man, life. You know, life is green, right? He's like, man, this thing got green leaves. It's like emerald green. You know, you look outside, you see all those leaves. It's like emerald green. And guess what? And the tender grass within the pots was radiant with life, and as the grass and the plants which covered the hills far into the distant fields and beyond. And Yahusha stroked the grass in the pot with the hands, even as gently as he would touch the head of a little child. I told you, growing little plants in a little pot will teach you how to take care of children. And guess what he says? And Yahusha said, happy are you, or Simcha are you, sons of light, for you have entered into the deathless way, the deathless way, and you walk in the path of truth, even as did your fathers of old, who were taught by the great ones, with the eyes and ears of the Ruach. Do you see and hear the sights and sounds of the Malkuth of the earthly mother, the blue sky, where dwells the Malach of air, the foaming river, where flows the Malach of water, and the golden light, which streams the Malach of the sun? And I tell you truly, all these are within you, as well as without. Say what? All these things are within you, as well or without. So all those behaviors on the inside that you think ain't gonna bolt up, they are in you. And the sun on the inside of you too, the same way the sun was in the earth right now, the Shamash. And I tell you truly, that all these are within you as well as without. For your breath, your blood, the fire of life within you, all are one with the earthly mother. But all these and more, the most precious gifts of the earthly mother, is the grass beneath your feet, even the grass which you tread upon without thought. Humble and meek is the Malach of the earth, for she has no wings to fly, nor golden rays of light to pierce the mist. But great is her strength, and vast is her domain, for she covers the earth with her power, and without her the sons of men would be no more. For no man can live without the grass or the field and the trees and the plants of the earthly mother. You know how they try to do it today. And these are the gifts of the Malach of the earth to the sons of men. But now I will speak to you in the mystery of mysterious things. For I tell you truly, the humble grass is more than food for man and beast. It hides in a kabod beneath the lowly aspect, as it was told of a ruler of old that he visited villages and his subjects disguised as a beggar, knowing that they would tell many things to such as one, but would fall down in fear before their king. So does the humble grass hide in the kabod under the coat of the humble green. The sons of men walk on it, plow it, feed it to their beasts, but know not what secrets are hidden within it, even those secrets of everlasting life in the heavenly kingdoms. All right, so we look at all that. We look at Yahushua Mashiach. We look at the tree of life, which gives us life. You know, that tree that's in the midst of the gun is a part of the understanding of who we are. And that tree that's in the midst of the gun is healing. His 12 manners of fruit for the healing of the nations. Knowing that all these things that we see, its leaves are for the healing of the nations. And he said, why is the emerald trees and the emerald leaves are healing for the nations? When you look at all these things that take place on the earth, everything that's taking place, and all these things, there's many hidden things within ourselves that one must know. And as we move forward in the understanding, you know, when Yahushua says they did these things when it is green, what do you think they're going to do when it's dry? He said, they did these things to me when it was green. What do you think they're going to do when it's scorched, when it's dry? Right? So you look at all these things that can happen and all these things that can't happen. For all these things that Yahushua did and shown and continues to show, it's all a part of the light of life, the ore that's within. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The Anu shall inherit the Eretz.